The LNS house, living room. Have you learned your lesson? Yes, yes, I'm sorry. And will you dare to do it again? Well, that depends on the situation. Ow. No, never again, I promise. Satisfied with his surrender, Claire Sterling finally released the ear she had been pinching between her slender fingers. Leo Wallace rubbed his ear, grimacing. You can't really blame me. He grumbled. You just look too good in that outfit. He wasn't wrong. Even though he was used to his girlfriend's stunning beauty, the sight of her dressed as Arwen from the Lord of the Rings, a vision in ethereal white chiffon, as if she didn't belong to the mortal world, was breathtaking. It perfectly matched her naturally cool and transcendent aura. Just a few years ago, the final film in the trilogy had been a cultural phenomenon. Claire was every bit as beautiful as the actress who played the elven princess, but she possessed a mature, commanding presence that replaced any hint of youthful naivete. It was a direct hit to Leo's heart. What guy who grew up with those books and movies hadn't fantasized about Arwen? Leo puffed out his chest, his argument suddenly feeling entirely justified. You're Arwen. I'm Aragorn. A little passion is perfectly reasonable, isn't it? Claire was carefully smoothing out the wrinkles in her costume. Hearing his excuse, she didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. You little wolf. You have a nerve to call yourself Aragorn. You are acting less like a returning king and more like some creepy stalker. Leo suddenly grew alert. Wait, you're not going to make me cosplay as a creepy stalker, are you? That's not really appropriate. Before he could finish, his girlfriend shot out a delicate foot and kicked him in annoyance. Of course not, you idiot. Who cosplays a hero and a random creep as a couple? Leo was knocked clean off the sofa, but he scrambled back up, looking relieved. Oh, good, good. He had just poked his head back over the cushions when a bag of clothes was tossed squarely at his face. I bought these for you, Claire said. The costume, props, and a wig. Go put them on and let me see. Leo peeked into the bag, looking a little reluctant. I had to wear a wig. He tossed the bag aside and, without a hint of shame, started sidling along the sofa toward her. How about we change later? We can finish what we were doing first. He didn't get far. A gleaming sword, seemingly from nowhere, was suddenly pressed against his neck. The girl holding the prop, sword, eyed him sideways. Are you going to change? His eyes didn't even blink. He surrendered instantly. Changing. Before putting on the costume, Leo sat obediently on the sofa while Claire helped him with the wig. It was her first time doing this, and she wasn't very skilled. On top of that, her idiot boyfriend was anything but cooperative, constantly muttering about the wig cap being too tight, the adhesive feeling weird, and the whole thing being uncomfortable. Finally, Bertha Sue lost her patience. She grabbed his head and pressed it firmly into her chest. Don't move. That did the trick. He instantly went still, quiet, and compliant. After the wig was on, Claire started applying makeup. Leo began his muttering again. Why do guys even need makeup? She finished drawing a pair of sharp, heroic eyebrows. But because he kept fidgeting, the wig she had just set perfectly came loose, with strands falling messily around his face like a vagrant's. Claire was sweating from the effort and finally gave up, pushing his head away. Fine, go change your clothes yourself. And fix your hair. Oh, Leo said, getting up obediently and taking the clothes upstairs. 10 minutes later, Claire, sitting on the living room sofa, called up the stairs, her voice laced with impatience. Are you done yet? Leo's voice drifted down. Almost. This costume is so complicated. He was still complaining. Claire sighed, half amused, half exasperated. All right, just come down and let me see. Her words caught in her throat. With the sound of footsteps, a figure emerged from the staircase, coming into her view. He wore a simple but elegant black tunic, a classic ranger's garb that gave him an air of casual, rugged freedom. The messy hair was now gathered and tied back, falling loosely over his shoulders, with 2 strands of stark white at his temples adding a touch of weathered experience. His eyebrows were sharp, his handsome face defined by a pair of bright, captivating eyes that could steal your heart. Claire found herself staring, slightly mesmerized. Leo had already strolled down the stairs and now stood before her, giving a little spin. Well, Claire looked him up and down, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. Amazing. Then she reached out, turning his face from side to side to examine it more closely, a hint of disappointment in her voice. You just look a little too young. Not mature enough. Leo raised an eyebrow. He produced a silver half-mask from behind his back, the kind Aragorn might wear as Strider, and placed it over his face, concealing the upper half and leaving only his eyes visible. How about now? Claire studied the eyes under the mask and offered a concise critique. Clear and foolish. Leo thought for a moment, then held up a hand. Hold on. He lowered his head slightly, taking a deep breath as if to center himself. Claire couldn't help but laugh. What are you doing now? The next moment, Leo lifted his head again. This time, the eyes visible beneath the silver half-mask were as deep and profound as a midnight sea. The former clarity was gone, replaced by a quiet wisdom that seemed forged by time itself. His voice, when he spoke, was a low, magnetic baritone. How about now? Claire was stunned. She met his gaze from under the mask, feeling herself fall into a daze, completely captivated. Seeing his girlfriend's adorable, starstruck expression, Leo chuckled, reaching out to gently lift her chin. See? I told you it wasn't bad. Before he could finish his sentence, and before he could react, the girl in front of him leaned forward and pressed her lips directly against his. Leo, MMPH. From his cage nearby, Reasonable the parrot glanced over at the sofa. He looked at his master and mistress. He couldn't help but smack his beak. Well, how the tables have turned. Arwen's making a move on Aragorn. The next day, Wednesday midday, at the LNS house, Claire, already in her Arwen costume, was tidying up the living room while shouting upstairs. Hurry up. We told everyone we'd meet at the East Gate at 12:30, she called. Oh, and remember to bring down my makeup bag. A voice came from upstairs. Coming. Leo, also in costume, descended the stairs while on the phone. He handed the makeup bag to his girlfriend and spoke into the phone. Gotta go, we're heading out. Claire gave him a questioning look. It's Annie Cakes, Leo explained casually. She doesn't have her internship today, so she's going to the comic and anime fest too. Anna's cheerful voice crackled through the phone. Sister-in-law, see you at the fest. Claire smiled, happy to hear from her. Sound good. What are you cosplaying as today? At that same moment, in the back of a taxi on the way to the convention center, Anna looked down at her own costume, her voice full of pride. It's a secret. You'll see when you get here. Simultaneously, at the entrance to Berkeley's new campus, the heads of Mako Entertainment's art and programming departments were standing by the road, trying to hail a cab. The handsome man and beautiful woman simply standing there was enough to draw admiring glances from passersby. Wyatt Way sighed. If you wanted to go to the fest for fun, you could have just gone by yourself. Why did you have to drag me along? Isabella Zhao replied with irrefutable logic. Colleagues have to stick together. We go together. It'll stop you from secretly working overtime while I'm gone. The competitive spirit and paranoia of a born workaholic were on full display. A taxi pulled up a short distance away. Isabella waved excitedly. Over here. Hurry, let's go. Time to go see all the handsome guys and pretty girls at the fest. They had agreed to meet their roommates at the university's Eastgate at 12:30 p.m. At 12:10, Leo and Claire finished getting ready at the LNS house and prepared to leave. Before heading out, they took a moment to look each other over, gazing at his girlfriend, who looked like a celestial being in her flowing white dress. Leo gave a sincere thumbs up. Beautiful. Claire's lips curved into a smile. She returned the compliment to her dashing boyfriend in his rugged black tunic. Handsome. After a brief session of mutual admiration, they took out their phones for a selfie. Satisfied, Leo extended his hand with a theatrical flourish. My Lady Arwen, if you please. Claire smiled elegantly, placing her hand in his. After you, my Lord Aragorn. The power couple was ready to depart. Just before they left, Leo called out, Reasonable. The chubby parrot immediately fluttered over and landed on his master's shoulder. Let's go. When a legendary couple makes an appearance, their legendary eagle can't be left behind. Since the previous eagle, Kevin Zhao, was far away in Portland, the chubby parrot had naturally stepped up to fill the role. Arriving at the entrance of their complex, they waited by the roadside. Soon, a public bus pulled up to the stop. The moment Leo and Claire stepped on, they captured the attention of nearly every passenger. Claire, especially in her ethereal white gown, was a vision that made people stare in disbelief. For a moment, they wondered if they were hallucinating. Had a fairy stepped out of storybook? Do fairies ride the bus? A few passengers who had seen the Lord of the Rings movies recognized their costumes and were even more impressed. These two, they could seriously star in an official remake. A boy of about 10, sitting next to Leo and Claire's seats, stared wide-eyed at Claire. Wow, you're so pretty. Just as pretty as Arwen in the movies. Claire was pleased and gave the little boy a gentle smile. Thank you. That smile transcended all age barriers. The little guy was completely starstruck. After a moment, he snapped out of it and amended his statement with unwavering conviction. No, you're even prettier than Arwen in the movies. I declare you the new Arwen. Then, he turned to the man beside the elven princess, looking Leo over with curiosity. You must be Aragorn, right? Where's your sword in Durrell? This kid knew his lore. They did have a prop of the legendary sword, but it was a large and complicated piece. It was being delivered directly to the convention center later that day. Hearing the boy's question, Leo answered without missing a beat. Lost it. If you Venmo me $20 to help me reforge it, I'll make you a knight of Gundor after I reclaim my throne and unite the kingdoms. The kid was completely captivated by the story. Claire nudged him, half amused, half exasperated. What are you doing? You can't scam a child. About 10 minutes later, the bus arrived at the stop in front of Berkeley. Leo and Claire got off. It was almost time to meet, but their friends hadn't arrived yet. Claire handed her bag and prop sword to Leo while she went to a nearby convenience store to buy drinks. Leo stood by the east gate, holding the sword in her bag, waiting idly. Some passing Berkeley students recognized him and waved. Yo, Leo. Looking sharp today. Were you headed to level up? Leo chuckled and responded, giving the prop sword a few flashy twirls. The passing students cheered him on. Awesome. As they walked away, the students started whispering among themselves. He's just showing off with a sword at the main gate. How the hell did a guy like that land the campus queen? Before long, a shout came from inside the campus gate. Leo. Leo looked up and saw his roommates from room 520 and the girls from 205 heading their way. The sight was a chaotic parade. Each of them was dressed in a riot of colors and bizarre outfits, carrying all sorts of eye-catching props that drew stares from everyone around. On the girls' side, Quinn Liu was apparently cosplaying as Boa Hancock from One Piece. She wore a striking red, snakeskin patterned qipao that hugged her long, slender figure. The high slit of the dress revealed a pair of breathtakingly long legs that were enough to cause nosebleeds. Molly Tang and Jay Jiang were dressed more conservatively, both wearing Japanese-style school uniforms that made them look cute and cartoonish. The guys' costumes were far more ridiculous. Leon, the dorm leader, had squeezed himself into a tight black leather jacket and leather pants, complete with sunglasses, a dead ringer for the Terminator. Marco Shaw seemed to have also chosen a One Piece character, cosplaying as Captain Buggy, with a captain's hat and a small red ball on his nose. Dylan, walking beside him, was no better. He was dressed as Usopp in his Sogeking persona, and had gone to the trouble of attaching a long prosthetic nose. Both of them seemed to think they looked incredibly cool, strutting with an air of smug satisfaction. As they approached, Marco boasted to Leo, "Well, Leo, what do you think? Dylan and I really stand out, don't we? You don't have to follow the crowd and be handsome. Our look is totally unique. No one's going to copy this." Leo looked at the two of them and nodded sincerely. Definitely, the two brothers were true to their nature, never forgetting their roots. They were solidifying their Gotham City villain credentials. He soon learned that Molly and Jade were cosplaying as Sakura and Tomoyo from Cardcaptors, a pair of best friends, which suited them well. At least it was a better match than Sakura standing next to the Terminator. The group finally took notice of Leo's attire. Is that Aragorn? Whoa, Leo's doing a power couple cosplay. That's pretty damn cool. Quinn suddenly realized something. Hey, wait a minute. If you're Aragorn, then Claire must be. Before she could finish, Claire walked out of the convenience store with the drinks. All eyes turned to her. They saw the campus queen, ethereal and radiant in her flowing white elven gown. Their jaws dropped. The girls shrieked with excitement. Whoa, Claire, you look absolutely divine. Like a real angel. They swarmed around her, showering her with a torrent of breathless compliments. The three guys from room 520, standing next to Leo, were equally stunned. Holy shit, looking that beautiful should be illegal. Bertha Sue looks at least twice as pretty as usual in that outfit. Twice. Try 10 times. Then, the three of them turned to Leo, their faces a mixture of envy, jealousy, and pure hatred. A goddess who doesn't belong in this world. And she belongs to this punk. Marco eyed Leo's arm, rubbing his hands together menacingly. Aragorn gets his arm broken in the movie, right? Your cosplay is missing a key detail, Leo. Maybe us brothers can help you out with that. With the two dorms now assembled, it was time to head to the Comic and Anime Fest. The convention was being held at the city's main sports stadium on the other side of town. The subway was the most convenient option. As the large group descended into the station, their strange and wonderful costumes naturally drew plenty of attention from other commuters. Once on the train, they sat in a long row, an even more conspicuous and eye-catching sight. A child on the train recognized some of their costumes and cried out in delight, "Wow, it's Aragorn and Arwen." Another little girl's eyes lit up as she looked at Molly and Jade. "It's Sakura and Tomoyo. You guys look so pretty." A few middle school boys, blushing, approached Quinn. Miss, can we take a picture with you? We're huge One Piece fans, and we love Boa Hancock. Quinn, delighted, graciously posed for a photo with her young admirers. Marco, standing nearby, muttered under his breath, "Are they really fans of Boa Hancock? Or are they just lusting after her body?" He then puffed out his chest and stepped forward. "So you One Piece fans, huh? Well, I'm cosplaying a character from the series too. How about a picture with me?" The boys turned to look at Marco, hesitating. "Dude, aren't you the Joker from Batman?" Marco's face fell. He then exploded in frustration. "I'm Buggy, Captain Buggy from One Piece." The middle schoolers had a moment of realization. "Oh right, another clown." They then decisively rejected his offer. "Our phone's about to die, man. Maybe next time." Dylan and Leon didn't fare much better. A little girl of about 6 or 7 had her eyes fixed on Dylan's long nose. "Mister, are you Pinocchio? Is your nose so long because you told a lie? Good kids aren't supposed to lie." Meanwhile, Leon, with his bulging muscles, black leather jacket, and sunglasses, was being lectured by an elderly woman who had grabbed his arm. "Young man, you're so young, don't go down the wrong path. Study hard, you can't join a gang." The same middle schoolers who had politely turned down Marco then approached Leo and Claire, hoping for a photo with the legendary couple, along with the parrot on Leo's shoulder. The two happily agreed and posed for pictures. The boys were thrilled and thanked them profusely. One of them looked closely at Leo and asked, "Mister, are you cosplaying Aragorn after he and Arwen were reunited years later?" Quinn, who wasn't familiar with the story, asked curiously, "Aragorn has different looks?" The boy nodded. "Yeah, there's his look when he was younger, as Strider. And then there's the one from after they were separated for years and finally reunited. In that one, Aragorn wears a black tunic like this, and he has white streaks in his hair, just like you do now." Claire suddenly froze. When she bought the costumes and wigs, she hadn't paid much attention to the specifics. Hearing the boy's explanation, it all came back to her. Leo, too, was stunned, the memory of the story returning to him. In the lore, Arwen gives up her immortality for Aragorn, but they are separated by the Great War, their reunion uncertain until the conflict is resolved. A long, painful separation. 16 years. The number struck a chord deep within Leo and Claire, leaving them both in a momentary daze. In their previous lives, they had been separated. Now, they had been reborn into this world. Their reunion had come after turning back the clock. Precisely 16 years. In a way, their own story mirrored the journey of the characters they were cosplaying, echoing across time and fate. The middle schooler was still gushing. "But seriously, you look so cool in this costume. You and the lady cosplaying Arwen look perfect together." Leo and Claire exchanged a glance. They both smiled faintly. "Yeah," Leo said softly, "it really is a perfect fit." After a 40-minute subway ride and a 10-minute walk, the group finally reached their destination. Standing at the entrance to the East Bay Sports Stadium, they were greeted by a roaring, chaotic sea of people. Molly's eyes widened in amazement. There are so many people. It was true. The first ever East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest, and the first officially organized convention of its kind, had generated an incredible buzz among the city's college students. It wasn't just students, either. Office workers and even families with children had come out to join the fun. If it had been a weekend, the crowd would have been several times larger. Jade habitually adjusted her glasses, looking up at the sign above the entrance. "This is just the entrance to Hall A. The stadium also has Halls B, C, and D. All told, there are way more people than this." As the group was heading toward the entrance to line up, Leo's phone rang. He answered it to hear Anna's cheerful voice. "Leo the pig, are you guys here yet? I already got in line, and I'm inside. Hurry up." Leo looked up at the sign above the stadium entrance. "We's got here. We're at Hall A. Where are you?" Anna paused. "Hall A." Then she shrieked in dismay. I think I'm at Hall C. Why didn't you say so earlier?" The two halls are super far apart. Inside the stadium, Hall C, the hall was packed, with crowds of people moving in every direction. Amidst the throng, the eyes of countless visitors were drawn to a stunningly beautiful girl in a Sailor Moon costume. They couldn't help but sneak glances, their faces filled with admiration. But at that moment, the subject of their attention, Annie Cakes, was oblivious to the stares. She had just put her phone away and was looking at the dense crowd in front of her on the verge of tears. From Hall C to Hall A. "I'm going to get crushed trying to get through this." But then, Anna steeled herself. "It's okay. Sailor Moon, charge." After giving herself a pep talk, she took a deep breath and plunged headfirst into the crowd. At the same time, in Hall B, The two department heads from Mako Entertainment had also finished waiting in line and entered the hall. Wyatt Way, dressed in casual clothes, stood tall and elegant, drawing admiring looks from many of the female passers-by. He currently had one hand in his pocket, strolling listlessly beside Isabella Zhao, while his other hand held a bag of costume props. "We're just browsing," he complained. "Why do we have to get costumes?" Isabella, as always, had a perfectly logical explanation. "It's the convention rules. Regular visitors pay $40 for a ticket, but cosplayers get a 50% discount. It's so much cheaper." At that moment, Isabella herself was wearing a special-grade fertilizer bag from the Garden Grab game over her head. The bag covered her from her head down to her waist, with only her arms and a small, pretty face peeking out. She looked both clear and fully. No, clever. Clear and clever. Wyatt glanced at the fertilizer bag on her head, then at the costume in his hand. "How much did you spend on these two costumes?" Isabella answered without hesitation. $140. Your rental alone was $100, so remember to pay me back." Wyatt sighed. "And how much do we save with the 50% discount on 2 tickets?" Isabella counted on her fingers with lightning speed. 20 for 1, so 40 for 2. She then looked at Wyatt, as if he were an idiot. "Are you dumb or something?" Wyatt was speechless. She's calling someone else dumb? The world has turned upside down. Just then, Isabella seemed to spot something, and her eyes lit up. She dashed ahead excitedly. Wow, the Garden Grab game booth. Wyatt was left standing alone. Just as he was about to follow her, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID, a slight frown creasing his brow, before he answered. The moment he picked up, his face was once again a mask of warm, friendly smiles. "Hey, Chingzi, what's up?" A young man's laughter came from the other end. "Nothing much, just missed you, man. There's a comic fest in town today, tons of beautiful girls. Me and the guys are here hunting for talent. You want to join?" Hearing that they were also at the fest caught Wyatt by surprise. He quickly recovered, laughing it off. "Nah, I'm busy today. Maybe next time. You guys have fun." As he was speaking, his eyes happened to scan the crowd ahead. He suddenly saw a group of young men, the one in the lead on his phone. Wyatt's expression changed. He quickly hung up, turned, and ducked behind a nearby corner. Over in the crowd, the young man in the lead heard a dial tone in his ear. "Hello, Wyatt." Another young man came over. "Qingrui, what's he say?" The young man, named Qingrui, put his phone away and cursed. "What else? He blew me off again." He waved his hand dismissively. "Whatever. If he doesn't want to come, he doesn't want to come. Let's go have our own fun." The others cheered, and the group moved on. A few moments after they left, Wyatt emerged from the corner, watching them go with another frown. Though they were technically childhood friends from connected families, he genuinely had no interest in associating with them. Running into them here was just bad luck. If they saw him, it would be a whole hassle. An idea struck him. He looked down at the bag in his hand, which contained the costume Isabella had generously rented for him. A change of clothes might be a good idea. He pulled the costume out of the bag. It was an elegant, form-fitting black tuxedo, complete with a pair of white gloves and a white half-mask. Perfect for a disguise. But as he looked at the costume, a flicker of confusion crossed his face. This outfit seemed a bit familiar. Then it hit him. Tuxedo mask from Sailor Moon. Wyatt looked at the costume, stroked his chin, and accepted his fate. Works for me. A handsome, elegant, and noble man like myself is perfectly suited for a role like this. Over in Hall A, Leo and the others had finally made it through the line and into the convention. The crowd inside was even denser than the one outside, a chaotic and vibrant sea of people. The first East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest had drawn countless cosplayers and fans from all over the city and even from neighboring towns. Everyone who came today had pulled out all the stops, arriving in meticulously prepared costumes. Everywhere you looked, there were handsome guys and beautiful girls. Cosplayers from Dragon Ball, One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, as well as characters from more niche anime and games. The cool and intricate costumes and props, not to mention the dazzling display of long, pale legs, was almost overwhelming. It felt like stepping into a living, breathing mashup of the entire anime and gaming world. The sight left the two dorms full of friends buzzing with excitement. This is so lively. The girls' eyes lit up at the sight of one beautifully dressed female cosplayer after another. Wow, so many pretty girls. The guys from room 520 were equally impressed. Damn, so many legs. Leo, however, maintained an air of calm detachment, his eyes fixed forward. It's all right, I guess. Not as good as my Claire, though. The rest of the group shot him a collective side-eye. Nice brown nosing. Bertha Sue really has you on a tight leash, huh? Leo looked righteous. It has nothing to do with a leash. I'm just not interested in this kind of thing. Just then, a cosplayer in black stockings and high heels walked past them. Leo didn't even flinch. The group was momentarily stunned, impressed by his self-control. Holy crap. Leo remained nonchalant. I told you, I'm just not into it. It's tacky. Another group of female cosplayers walked by, arm in arm, laughing and chatting. A forest of black, white, and fishnet-clad legs flashed by. Leo Hammer Wallace's eyes didn't so much as twitch. He gazed at his girlfriend with nothing but gentle affection. Now, his friends were truly shocked. Quinn and Molly stared at Leo as if he were a complete stranger. Who are you? Get out of Leo's body. Marco grabbed Leo's arm and shook him violently. Leo, what's wrong with you? Are you blind? Those were stockings. Leon pulled a homemade date cake from the pocket of his Terminator jacket and offered it to Leo with a grave expression. Here, eat this. It might ward off whatever evil spirit has possessed you. Jade, standing to the side, pushed her glasses up her nose and calmly stated the obvious. He's not possessed. Claire is holding a sword today. Everyone froze. Their gazes instinctively shifted to Claire, who was standing beside Leo. Dressed as Arwen, she stood tall and graceful, a long sword strapped to her back. The prop was exquisitely detailed and looked disturbingly real, its edge glinting with a menacing light. Realization dawned. Reasonable, very reasonable. Now that they were at the fest, the first order of business was to take pictures. Both dorms had come fully equipped. They found an open space in the hall and enthusiastically started setting up for a photo shoot. The girls went first, posing for a group picture. The four beauties from Berkeley School of Business were each dressed in a different theme. Cardcaptors, Lord of the Rings, and One Piece. There was the cute and charming, the intellectual and gentle, the mature and queenly, and finally, the ethereal and otherworldly fairy. All of them were stunningly beautiful, with impeccable style. The moment the four of them stood together, they became a magnet for the admiring gazes of every passerby, cosplayer and visitor alike. After the group shot, they took turns taking pictures in different combinations. There was the Cardcaptors' best friends duo, the stark contrast of Boa Hancock and Arwen, sexy and cool, and the adorable pairing of Boa Hancock and Sakura, sexy and cute. The girls from room 205 were having a blast, snapping photos nonstop. Even Claire, who had never been to a convention in either of her lives, was swept up in the fun, asking Leo to take a few more pictures of her. Leo smiled and raised the camera, focusing the lens on his girlfriend. Claire struck various poses for him, her enthusiasm infectious. She twirled her sword, then adopted Arwen's signature stance, her posture elegant and her aura coolly detached. Some of the passing visitors were so stunned they had to rub their eyes and look again. Holy crap! Did the convention hire the actual actress from the movie? For a final pose, Claire expertly sheathed her sword, then blew a kiss to the camera with a bright, open smile. Leo couldn't help but laugh as he pressed the shutter. Click! The moment was captured. Quinn, having just finished taking pictures with Molly and Jade, waved excitedly to Claire. Claire, come on. Let's take a really scandalous one. Claire laughed and walked over. She and Quinn stood together, arms wrapped around each other. Quinn, who was over 6 feet tall in her sky-high heels, looked every bit the fierce empress as she held Claire close, leaning down as if to kiss her. Claire played along, tilting her head back with a small, inviting pout. The two beautiful women were just inches from kissing. The visual was absolutely stunning. A group of middle and high school girls passing by went wild, squealing with delight. Wow, they're so perfect together. Kiss, kiss. Leo, who was taking the pictures, started to feel a little uneasy. This wasn't good. If this kept up, his girlfriend was going to be stolen away. He stepped forward decisively. All right, switch. Our turn to take pictures. The high school girls groaned in disappointment. Oh, why'd they have to switch? They were just about to kiss. Claire saw right through her boyfriend's little scheme. She shot him an amused glance, but happily took his hand. Okay, our turn. Molly hurried over with her camera. I'll be the photographer. Look at me, look at me. Leo casually put on his silver half-mask and wrapped his arm around his girlfriend's slender waist. One was dressed in ethereal white, cool and stunningly beautiful. The other was in a rugged black tunic, tall and free-spirited, his silver mask covering half his face but failing to hide his handsome, confident aura. They were a perfect match, a match made in heaven. The moment the couple stood before the camera, they once again captivated the surrounding crowd. The same high school girls who had just been disappointed were now staring in awe. Wow, Aragorn is so handsome. Their eyes lit up with excitement, and a chorus of voices erupted. Aragorn, are you single? Can I get a picture with you too? Me too. Me too. Suddenly, the object of their affection had changed. Now, it was Claire's turn to frown. The girl instinctively reached for her sword. Who did these people think they were, trying to steal her man? Even though it was the first convention of its kind in East Bay, the atmosphere inside the hall was incredibly positive. Most of the attendees, cosplayers, and visitors alike didn't have much experience with conventions, but what they lacked in experience, they made up for in passion. Everyone there was a fellow enthusiast. In the past, they could only share their interests online. Now, they were all gathered in one place, taking pictures and having fun together, and they were ecstatic. No one was shy. If you saw a pretty girl or a character you recognized, you just run up with a cheer and ask for a picture or offer to take one for them. If you happen to be cosplaying a character from the same series, it was like finding a long-lost relative. You'd immediately group up for a photo, striking a few classic poses and acting out a short scene from the show. Quinn ran into a few other One Piece cosplayers who waved her over enthusiastically. Hey, come take a picture with us. Quinn beamed and strode over on her impossibly long legs. Coming. She then struck Boa Hancock's signature pose, one hand on her hip, leaning back dramatically while pointing forward. Insolent fool, begone from my sight. The crowd erupted in cheers. Most of the cosplayers at the convention were dressed as characters from Japanese anime. A couple like Leo and Claire, dressed as figures from a Western fantasy epic, stood out. It wasn't just their choice of characters. Their natural good looks and charisma were enough to make them shine. Moreover, their personalities perfectly matched the characters they were portraying. As they walked through the convention hall, they were like a human magnet for attention. Everywhere they went, a wave of gasps and exclamations followed. Wow, Aragorn and Arwen. They look so authentic. Holy crap, they even have the great eagle. The chubby parrot in question was flapping its wings triumphantly, circling above his master and mistress's heads, squawking loudly. Photos $10. Autographs 20. Step right up, don't miss out, ow. Before he could finish a sales pitch, his mistress snatched him out of the air by his tail feathers and gave him a sharp rap on his silly head. Behave yourself. We're here to have fun, not to make money. Throughout the convention hall, there were photo op backdrops set up every so often. There were large frames that cosplayers and visitors could stand inside for pictures. At the bottom of each frame was the Happiness logo and a space designed to look like a social media post. As a co-sponsor of the event, Happiness had gone all out with its marketing. Visitors could take a picture at a photo op, upload it to their social media accounts, and win prizes based on the number of likes they received. It was a brilliant way to generate buzz and attract new users. A line had already formed at one of the Happiness photo spots. The two dorms were eager to join in. That looks fun. Let's get a picture. Once the people in front of them were done, Claire enthusiastically pulled Leo over to the backdrop. The couple stood inside the frame. One was ethereal and otherworldly, the other, wearing a silver half-mask with two strands of white hair dancing in a breeze, looked transcendent. They looked at each other. Arwen's lips curved into a faint smile. Aragorn's eyes were warm and gentle. They truly looked like a divine couple. Oh, and a chubby parrot pretending to be a great eagle. Their friends took pictures for them, and other passers-by, seeing the scene, were equally impressed. Whoa, that couple is perfect. They all pulled out their phones and started snapping away. Then, they logged on to Happiness and posted the pictures to their accounts with the tag #EastBayComicFest, writing captions like, "You have to see this amazing Aragorn and Arwen at the East Bay Comic and Anime Fest." They looked like they walked straight out of the movie. Without realizing it, they were planting the seeds for a viral sensation. After taking their pictures at the Happiness backdrop, Leo and the others were about to leave when they were surrounded by a large group of visitors and other cosplayers, all eagerly asking for a photo with them. They were used to it by now. The group happily obliged, graciously posing for pictures. But Claire, as Arwen, had such a powerful, unapproachable aura that many people were too intimidated to get close. Leo, on the other hand, was a different story. His Aragorn costume was dashing, and his warm, friendly demeanor made him easily approachable. He was soon surrounded by a group of middle and high school girls, all vying for a picture with him. After the photos, they gazed at him with stars in their eyes. "Mister, can we add you on AIM? Yeah, let's be friends." Claire had, at some point, quietly slipped into the crowd and was now standing protectively in front of her boyfriend. She smiled sweetly at the group of young girls. "Of course you can. Just write down your information and give it to me. I'll make sure you all..." I'll help him add you all later." The girls were ecstatic. "Wow, that's great. Thank you, miss. You're so nice." Molly, watching from the side, couldn't help but giggle. Wow, I never thought I'd see the day. Claire got jealous. But the next moment, she turned and saw her own boyfriend surrounded by another group of girls. Mister, are you cosplaying the Terminator? Your muscles are so big. Can I touch them? Molly froze. Then her eyes widened in alarm. She shot forward like a rocket. No, only I can touch them. Even Dylan and Marco managed to attract some fans. A guy took a picture with the Gotham duo and thanked them sincerely. Thanks, man. It's great to meet a fellow fan. I love Batman. Marco and Dylan, who had been grinning proudly just a moment before, suddenly looked confused. What? The Gotham duo was incensed. No, what Batman? We're from One Piece. Buggy and Usopp, you know. Just then, a cry of excitement came from up ahead. Look, it's Batman. Marco and Dylan's faces fell. What? They instinctively turned to run, but stopped after a few steps. Dylan looked at Marco, bewildered. Wait, why are we running from Batman? Marco touched the red ball on his nose and took a sharp breath. I think we're destined to be the clowns. After finally escaping the enthusiastic crowd, the group continued to wander through the convention hall. Besides taking pictures, the other main attraction was the wide variety of booths and stalls. Official booths from various game and anime companies stood alongside small, personal stalls set up by fans selling their handmade crafts. As they were browsing, Molly suddenly spotted something up ahead and cried out, Hey, there's a Happy Nest booth over there, and it looks like they have garden grab merch. The group's interest was piqued, and they all headed toward the booth. Let's go check it out. When they arrived, they found the Happy Nest booth was bustling with activity, with at least 2 or 3 times as many visitors as any of the other booths. The large screen was playing videos of Garden Grab, Brainiac Blitz, and Name Compatibility Test, as well as trailers for several upcoming games, all to the delight of the crowd. A display case was filled with Garden Grab merchandise, like keychains, phone cases, and small plushies, which had attracted a crowd of excited girls. The booth was staffed by Happy Nest employees and a few hired models, all of whom were energetic and friendly, helping visitors and answering questions. Just as Leo and the others approached the booth, an older Happy Nest employee looked up and saw Leo in his silver half mask. He looked familiar. The employee squinted, then his eyes shot wide open. Holy crap, it's Mr. Wallace. Before he could cry out in surprise, he saw a beautiful, ethereal girl walk up to Leo's side. Then, as he watched in stunned silence, the girl, dressed as Arwen, reached out and linked her arm through Leo's with an air of natural intimacy. The Happy Nest employee's brain short-circuited. Holy crap, it's the legendary boss's girlfriend. Stumbling upon his own boss and the boss's girlfriend was a shock. The Happy Nest employee from booth 13, ID number 032, was floored. Seeing the boss wasn't a big deal. He'd heard a few days ago that Mr. Wallace was planning to visit the convention. Seeing him in a cool Aragorn costume was just a mild surprise, something to sneak a photo of and send to the company group chat for the women to swoon over. The main event was seeing the legendary boss's girlfriend in the flesh. In that moment, employee 032 felt like his world was tilting on its axis. Rumors had been flying around the office for a while that Mr. Wallace had a girlfriend, and that she was supposedly gorgeous. But it was all unconfirmed speculation. Everyone at Happy Nest had been gossiping, wondering what she looked like, how gorgeous really was, and whether Mr. Wallace was exaggerating. But now, seeing her in person, the mystery was solved. He hadn't been exaggerating at all. In fact, she wasn't just gorgeous. She was a literal angel. As far as beautiful women went, their company's reigning queen, Hannah Ling, was already the pinnacle of conventional beauty. A former Berkeley Engineering Department belle. A solid 8 out of 10. But compared to the woman he was seeing now, if Hannah was an 8, then this breathtakingly beautiful, coolly elegant goddess was at least an 800. Fighting to contain his excitement, employee 032 whipped out his phone and fired off a message to the company group chat. Holy crap, guys. I see the boss's girlfriend. Mr. Wallace is here with his girlfriend. Right here in my booth. He then tagged everyone in the company. The message landed in the Happy Nest group chat, like a drop of water in a vat of boiling oil. Within seconds, the chat exploded into a frenzy of notifications. WTF for real? What does she look like? Is she pretty? Is she pretty? When employee 032 confirmed, so pretty it's insane, like an angel, the chat went into an even greater uproar. Even a few mid-level managers and directors were drawn out. An angel? How does she compare to our Hannah? Employee 032, high on adrenaline, typed furiously. Hannah's an 8. The boss's girlfriend is an 800. A new message appeared in the chat. Hannah Ling. She had been hit by a stray bullet. And for some reason, that phrasing sounded awfully familiar. The group grew even more excited, demanding, "What are you waiting for? Post a pic, damn it. Where's the photo? No pic, no proof." Employee 032 didn't have a chance to sneak a photo. Just then, Leo and Claire walked over hand in hand. He quickly put his phone away. Employee 032 looked at Leo and beamed, his face a mask of eager sycophancy. "Mister." Leo, seeing the employee and recognizing the look on his face, knew he'd been made. As the first word left the man's mouth, Leo gave him a sharp, warning glance and a subtle shake of his head. Employee 032 saw the look, paused for a fraction of a second, then seamlessly altered his sentence with lightning-fast reflexes. "Student. Hello, students. Is there anything I can help you with?" His tone remained obsequious, almost fawning. He was never this deferential to Mr. Wallace or Mr. Chung at the office. But this was different. This was in front of the boss's girlfriend. He had to make a good impression, make his boss look good. Claire raised an eyebrow, surprised by the employee's intense enthusiasm. After a moment's thought, she figured it out. It was probably this kind of passionate work ethic that had allowed Happiness to become a rising star in the tech world in such a short time. Leo was pleased with his employee's quick thinking. He smiled and said, "It's fine. We're just looking around. Do you have any souvenirs or anything like that at your booth?" When it came to his job, Employee 032 was all business. "Of course. This whole display case is filled with merchandise for our products. Please, feel free to take a look and pick out a few things you like." Led by the employee, Leo and Claire walked over to the display case. It was filled with all sorts of small items like phone cases and keychains, all themed around Garden Grab and Brainiac Blitz. There was even merchandise for name compatibility test, small wooden charms engraved with various results, from a match made in heaven to stronger than steel, and even like brothers. That last one would be perfect for Marco and Dylan, Leo thought. Claire was intrigued and asked about the price. Standing right in front of his boss, Employee 032 puffed out his chest and declared magnanimously, "No charge. As long as you two like them. Pick whatever you want, it's on the company." Claire was taken aback. Free? Her friends, Molly and Quinn, who were nearby, overheard and their eyes lit up. "Wow, are these all free? I'll take a couple then." Marco was already grabbing a handful of a dozen wooden charms. "I'll take these." Soon, other visitors at the booth heard the news and crowded around, both shocked and delighted. "Is it really free? Wow, Happiness is so generous. I'll take 200 then." Employee 032. He snapped back to reality, his face a mask of horror. He instinctively turned to his boss for help. He was met with a deadpan expression. Employee 032's scalp tingled. He leaned closer to his boss and whispered desperately, "Mr. Wallace, help me out here." Leo's face was expressionless. "It's coming out of your salary." After Employee 032 finally managed to resolve the free merchandise incident with a head full of sweat, Claire and Leo had moved to another part of the booth. A small open area was set up with plushies, keychains, and phone cases from Happiness spread out on the ground. Next to it was a stack of plastic rings. Employee 032 scurried over, his fawning smile back in place. "This is our interactive game, Ring Toss for prizes. This one is actually free. Everyone gets 3 rings. Anything you land a ring on, you get to keep." Claire's interest was piqued. Her gaze swept over the prizes on the ground, finally landing on a cartoon tomato figurine from Garden Grab in the back. Her eyes lit up. "That tomato looks nice. I'll give it a try." She picked up 3 rings, took a deep breath, aimed, and threw the first one. It missed. Claire frowned slightly, adjusted her stance, and threw the second ring. It also missed. The third followed suit. She turned to her boyfriend. Leo, ever perceptive, handed her 3 more rings. "I still have 3. Use mine." Claire took the rings, took another deep breath, her eyes sharp. She threw again. 10 seconds later, there were 3 more missed rings on the ground. Employee 032 couldn't help but chuckle. "Looks like this young lady's luck isn't so good today. But that's normal. Our ring toss is pretty difficult." Leo smiled and tried to comfort his girlfriend. "It's fine. It's just a stupid tomato. It doesn't matter if you don't get it." But Claire's brow was furrowed. It wasn't about the prize anymore. Her competitive spirit had been ignited. She turned to the employee. "Can I try again? I'll pay." Having just learned his lesson, Employee 032 was wiser now. He puffed out his chest and said righteously, "I'm afraid not. Company policy states that each visitor can only play 3 times. Before he could finish, Leo cleared his throat pointedly. Employee 032 slammed on the verbal brakes and, without missing a beat, changed his tune. But then again, as it happens, you are this booth's 999th lucky visitor. So, according to the event rules, you get 3 more tries. It was hard to say whether the ring toss was just too difficult or if Arwen Bertha Sue was having an exceptionally unlucky day. In any case, her third set of 3 rings all missed the target. The little tomato figurine from Garden Grab. Claire's frown deepened. Leo coughed again. Employee 032 started to sweat. Since you seem to like this figurine so much, we could just give it to you. Claire shook her head, resolute. I don't want it as a gift. I want to win it myself. The prize was irrelevant. It was a matter of pride. Beads of sweat formed on employee 032's brow. He saw his boss shoot him another threatening look and quickly racked his brain. Oh, right, actually, the 1,000 visitor also gets 3 extra rings. After that, the excuses kept coming. 3 rings became another 3. Employee 032 felt like he was using up a lifetime's worth of quick thinking right there, and then fabricating one new rule after another on the spot. Finally, on the 16th ring, just as it looked like the plastic circle was about to miss the tomato by a hair's breadth, Employee 032 had a flash of inspiration. Hey, what's that over there? He shouted. Claire instinctively turned to look. In that split second, Employee 032 swiftly kicked the tomato figurine on the ground, sliding it a good 8 inches to the left. The incoming ring landed perfectly, settling around it with a soft clatter. Just as Claire turned back, Employee 032 burst into enthusiastic applause. Congratulations. Amazing skill. You won the prize. Claire accepted her prize, thoroughly satisfied. Seeing his girlfriend happy, Leo was also happy. He gave his subordinate a nod of approval. Well done, kid. Employee 032 let out a sigh of relief, wiping the sweat from his forehead. That was too close. This boss's girlfriend was something else. Who would have thought a woman who looked like a goddess could get so worked up over a stupid plastic tomato? Comic and Anime Fest, Hall B, Happy Nest Booth 7. The third ring sailed past the tomato figurine in the back and landed on the floor. Isabella Zhao, a fertilizer bag on her head, looked utterly devastated. Oh, my little tomato. She had been passing by the booth when she saw the ring toss game. Her eyes had immediately locked onto that tomato figurine. Full of confidence, she had taken her 3 rings from the staff, but every single one had missed. Isabella turned to the staff member with pleading eyes. Can I have 3 more? The staff member shook his head apologetically. Sorry, each visitor only gets 3 tries. Not one to give up, Isabella sidled up to the employee, try to pull some strings. Hey man, can we work something out? My company has worked with Happiness before. On that Brainiac Blitz project. My boss's name is Kevin Zhao. The employee looked at her blankly. Kevin Zhao. He thought for a moment, then shook his head firmly. Never heard of him. Plan A fail. Isabella was about to walk away, dejected, when she heard the clatter of a ring landing. She looked up and saw a plastic circle settled perfectly around the tomato figurine she had been coveting. Isabella's eyes widened. A master. She watched as a girl in a Sailor Moon costume nonchalantly walked over and picked up the tomato. As she did, she muttered, overshot it. I was aiming for one of the bigger prizes. Isabella's envy reached its peak. Wow, this person, she won the little tomato, and she's still not satisfied. That's a limited edition piece of merch from a game. If you don't want it, give it to me. She looked up angrily at the girl's face, and then she froze. The girl had delicate, captivating features and a bright, generous smile. The golden wig of her Sailor Moon costume only served to accentuate her flawless porcelain skin. So pretty. And had just picked up her prize when she felt someone staring at her. She turned and saw Isabella, wide-eyed, looking right at her. Anna was taken aback. First, she was bewildered by the ridiculous fertilizer bag on the girl's head. Then she noticed the small, delicate face peeking out from the hole in the bag. The moment she saw Isabella's face, Anna, too, was momentarily stunned. Well, besides my sister-in-law and my own reflection, I rarely see a face that pretty. But a pretty face wearing a burlap sack. It gave one the distinct impression that this girl wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. While Anna was forming her assessment, Isabella was practically drooling. Her artists, I was in overdrive. This girl is almost as pretty as Tessie Yuan. And, well, about as pretty as me, but a different style, bright and confident. What a gorgeous girl. I want to be your friend. As she thought it, the words tumbled out of her mouth. Wow, you're so pretty. Anna was used to hearing compliments, but hearing it from another woman who was just as beautiful as her was different. She was momentarily surprised, then broke into a wide grin. Ah, you're so sweet. You're not so bad yourself. She waved her hand dismissively, then noticed the tomato figurine she was holding and offered it to Isabella. You want it? It's yours. Isabella's eyes widened again. She swallowed hard, trying to maintain some semblance of politeness. Oh, I couldn't possibly. Even as she said it, her hand was already reaching for the figurine. She quickly grabbed her misbehaving hand with her other one. Bad hand. Don't be so shameless. Anna saw this and laughed. Just take it. I was just playing for fun. I didn't really want it anyway. It would just be a hassle to carry around. She pushed it toward Isabella again. Isabella was tempted. Well, then can I help you take care of this hassle? Anna nodded cheerfully. Of course. Before she could finish, the figurine vanished from her hand. Isabella had snatched it with the speed of a striking viper and was now holding it protectively, a righteous expression on her face. All right then, I've always been one to help people in need. Anna couldn't help but laugh again. The more she looked at this girl, the more she liked her. Okay then, thank you. Isabella blushed. And no problem. She felt a little guilty for taking advantage of the girl's kindness and tried to think of a way to repay her. Just then, she noticed Anna's costume. Hey, you're cosplaying as Sailor Moon. An idea struck her, and she slapped her forehead. Oh, I have a friend. He's cosplaying as Tuxedo Mask today, and he's not bad-looking either. I'll introduce you, getting a valuable gift from a beautiful stranger for free. She had to repay the kindness somehow. Seeing Anna's Sailor Moon costume had sparked a brilliant idea in Isabella's mind. Sailor Moon. She had a ready-made tuxedo mask right here. What was the point of coming to a convention if not to meet fellow fans and have fun? And finding someone cosplaying a character from the same series, especially a character who was part of a couple, was a rare treat. This pretty girl was all alone as Sailor Moon. She must be lonely. If she had a tuxedo mask to accompany her, she'd be ecstatic. What better gift could there be? At that moment, Isabella felt like a genius. As for the fact that she was generously offering up a certain young master from the Wei family as a gift without his consent, Isabella didn't see it as a problem at all. She had just spent her own money to rent him a costume. They were colleagues. What was wrong with helping him out by setting him up? It was perfectly reasonable. Besides, he owed her one. Her clever little brain went into overdrive. She immediately launched into a passionate sales pitch for Wyatt. Seriously, this friend of mine is great. He might not be quite as smart as me, but he's handsome and rich. The two of you would look perfect together. Anna just laughed, trying to politely decline. No, really, it's fine. I appreciate the offer, but I'm perfectly happy on my own. I don't need a partner. But Isabella was now convinced this was the best idea ever. Look at this beautiful girl, pretty and kind-hearted, and she was dressed as Sailor Moon, a perfect match for Wyatt's tuxedo mask. It was fate. Handsome guys and pretty girls belonged together. And there was another layer to Isabella's plan. Wyatt was a workaholic. He was always working, driving her crazy with his relentless productivity. She had once asked him, "Don't you ever take a break? Go on a date or something? Why are you always working?" His response had been infuriatingly logical. What's the point of dating? Being single is great. I like being single, and I like working. At the time, she had been speechless. But now things were different. The more Isabella looked at Anna, the brighter her eyes shone. This girl was gorgeous, with a great personality to match. She was flawless. If she introduced her to Wyatt, there was no way he wouldn't be interested. And once he fell for her and started dating, he wouldn't have time to compete with Isabella at work anymore. She, Isabella Zhao, would once again reign supreme as the boss's #1 employee. The evil Isabella plan was afoot. The thought made her giddy with excitement. She mentally patted herself on the back. Wow, Isabella, you're so smart. You never fail to impress. Her mind made up, Isabella doubled down on her sales pitch, praising Wyatt to the heavens. Eventually, Anna couldn't resist her enthusiasm any longer. She laughingly wrote down her contact information and handed it to Isabella. All right. Here's my number. You can have your tuxedo mask friend add me himself, okay? But I'm busy right now. I have to go find someone over in Hall. Isabella happily tucked the piece of paper away. Hearing Anna's last sentence, she looked up, confused. Hall A? But this is Hall B. Now it was Anna's turn to be stunned. Hall B? She instinctively looked toward the nearest gate, where a large, prominent letter B was displayed on the wall. Annie Cakes felt her world crumble. Yeah, I went the wrong way. Sister, I gotta go. See you next time, bye. She then turned and scrambled off in the direction of Hall A. Isabella watched the beautiful Sailor Moon push her way through the crowd and disappear, shaking her head. That girl is so pretty, but she's not too bright either. Then, Isabella looked down at the piece of paper in her hand and grinned. See? She was the smart one, after all. Just as Isabella was congratulating herself, a voice came from behind her, panting. Seriously, how can you move so fast? I've been looking all over for you. Isabella turned to see a sweaty Wyatt pushing his way through the crowd toward her. He was now wearing the tuxedo mask costume. Isabella's eyes lit up. Whoa, the black tuxedo, the red line cape, the white gloves, the half mask. He actually looks pretty handsome. Thinking of her brilliant plan, she puffed out her chest proudly. I just got you the number of a beautiful girl. Here for you. She grandly handed the piece of paper to Wyatt. If you two end up together, remember to make me a bridesmaid. Wyatt took the paper, completely bewildered. Bridesmaid? What beautiful girl. Isabella's chin was high with pride. Sailor Moon. She's super pretty. A perfect match for you. Wyatt was completely uninterested. Sailor Moon? So what? How pretty could she be? No one could compare to Claire the Demoness anyway, so it didn't matter. I told you, I'm not interested in dating. My life is a perilous journey, and I don't even know if I'll make it to the other side. He was still muttering to himself, but Isabella wasn't listening. Her attention had been captured by something in the distance. Her eyes lit up again. Wow, there's another event over there. Let me handle this. And with that, the girl with the fertilizer bag on her head dashed off toward another booth, leaving Wyatt standing alone once again. Wyatt's face was dark. Seriously, are you 3 years old? Can't you even wait for me to finish a sentence? He shook his head in exasperation and looked down at the piece of paper in his hand. It had a phone number written on it. He was about to throw it away, but there were no trash cans nearby. After a moment's thought, he stuffed it into his pocket. Whatever. He'd throw it out when he left. Hall A, in front of the Happiness booth. Leo hung up his phone and turned to Claire. That was Annie Cakes. She said she went the wrong way, ended up in Hall B. She's heading over here now. Claire nodded. Then her gaze drifted to something in the distance, a flicker of confusion on her face. Why are there so many people all of a sudden? Were there always this many employees at the booth? Leo followed her gaze, and his expression darkened. The Happiness booth, which had only had 6 or 7 staff members a moment ago, was now swarming with more than a dozen. They were all pretending to be hard at work, enthusiastically helping visitors, but out of the corners of their eyes, they were all sneaking glances in his direction. He knew exactly what was going on. That employee 032 must have sent a message to the company group chat. This bunch of gossip-loving troublemakers. They had all come to see the boss's girlfriend. Claire also noticed the furtive glances. She raised an eyebrow. Are they looking at me? Leo shot a death glare at his employees, who quickly snapped their attention back to their work. Suddenly, the very picture of diligence. Only then did he turn back to his girlfriend with a cheerful smile. They probably just think you're beautiful. It's not every day you see an angel. It's normal for them to stare a little. Claire considered this and accepted it. Reasonable. Having successfully dispelled her suspicion, Leo breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced back at his employees, who were once again sneaking peeks like a bunch of thieves. He didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. Do your jobs. What's the point of gawking at the boss's girlfriend? I'm docking your pay, especially the instigator 032. He's losing his bonus this month. Looking at his Happiness staff, he couldn't help but think of his own trusted generals at Mako Entertainment. A wave of pride washed over him. Isabella and Wyatt are probably hard at work, writing code and designing art right now. My Mako Entertainment people are so much more reliable. The convention hall was a forest of booths. Not just Happiness, but all sorts of official game and anime companies were showcasing their latest products and merchandise. There were also plenty of individual fans who had set up small stalls to sell their handmade crafts. The two dorms were having a blast, their eyes wide with wonder. Just then, Claire's friend from room 205 called out to her excitedly. Claire, come here. The little trinkets at this stall are so cute. The girl happily agreed and was about to go over. She glanced back at Leo, who waved her on. Go ahead. I'll just wander around here for a bit. Claire nodded, then gave him a sharp look. Wander, yes, but no looking at other girls. Leo laughed. What if I see one by accident? Claire, without a moment's hesitation, drew her sword an inch from its scabbard. Then I'll have to confiscate the offending instrument. Leo gulped. Right. After that friendly reminder from his girlfriend, Leo walked with an air of pure righteousness, his eyes fixed firmly ahead. He passed by a group of cosplayers in black and white stockings without so much as a glance. He was simply observing the layout and atmosphere of the convention with a professional eye. He had to admit, this first East Bay Comic and Anime Fest was a huge success. Happiness should definitely continue to deepen its partnership with the city's Cultural Affairs Bureau. With the backing of the local government, they could make the convention a signature cultural event for the city and Happiness a shining star of the local economy. His thoughts were interrupted by a woman in her late 20s who was striding toward him with purpose. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, a short skirt, black stockings, and high heels, the very picture of a mature, capable woman. Reasonable, perched on Leo's shoulder, instantly went on alert, flapping his wings and squawking a warning. Careful, careful. Offending instrument, offending instrument. He was silenced by a swat from Leo. It wasn't a stranger. It was Penny Fong, the head of Happiness Planning Department. As she reached him, she immediately started looking around. Where's the boss's girlfriend? Don't hide her, let me see. Leo was exasperated. You're just as bad as the rest of them. Penny was unapologetic. The company chat is blowing up. Everyone who's seen her is calling her an angel. Hannah is so unconvinced. If she wasn't so busy, she'd be here herself to see what an 800-point girlfriend looks like. I'm just here on her behalf. Leo waved his hand dismissively. All right. Let's talk business. How are things looking today? Months of making decisions at Happy Nest had given him an air of authority. When he spoke, the natural gravitas in his voice made even a high-level manager like Penny stand a little straighter. She dropped the playful tone and gave her report. It's the first day, and the visitor traffic is excellent. Across the 4 halls, we've already hit 53,000 attendees. We're expecting to break 100,000 on the weekend. The traffic to our website has also been great. The event-related posts have already surpassed 6,000, with over 10,000 likes and 1 million views. Leo nodded. What about security? We need to maintain order. If we're going to be a co-sponsor, we need to make sure this event runs smoothly. Penny nodded. Don't worry. Director Shun from the Cultural Affairs Bureau has coordinated with the local police department. Captain Xing and his officers are on patrol outside. We also have our own security inside. Anyone who causes trouble will be thrown out. She said the last part with a decisive, commanding air. Then she smiled. Anyway, so far, so good. No one's going to be stupid enough to cause trouble at an event this big. Most of our security personnel have been assigned to the Battle Through the Heavens book signing at the Scrollverse booth. Leo smiled and nodded in satisfaction. Good, that's... Wait, what? He suddenly froze, his eyes widening. What book signing? Leo hadn't expected such a coincidence. He had been so busy with final exams and preparing for the convention that he hadn't had much time to chat with Potato. He had no idea that the author, who was supposed to be holed up at home writing, would be at the convention for a book signing today. But on second thought, it made sense. For one, Scrollverse was headquartered in East Bay. As the city's first official comic and anime festival, it was a golden opportunity for a company that was already starting to focus on IP development. And two, in the past few months, Potato's novel, Battle Through the Heavens, had become a massive online sensation. Even with the evil browser game developer holding back the plot's climax, the novel had already amassed a legion of fans. The publication of the first book was, without a doubt, Scrollverse's flagship event of the year. So, unexpectedly, but also quite reasonably, the author and the game developer, who had only ever talked online, were about to have a chance to meet in person at the first East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest. Leo's interest was piqued. He had nothing better to do. He might as well go say hi to Potato. From Penny's description, Leo had imagined the book signing would be a chaotic scene. But when he actually arrived at the Scrollverse booth, he realized he had underestimated the passion of the Battle Through the Heavens fans. As far as the eye could see, it was a roiling sea of people. The author hadn't even appeared yet, but a crowd of at least 200 or 300 fans had already swarmed the booth, completely blocking it off. They were all clutching copies of the book, some even holding up homemade signs, craning their necks to see the stage. Where is he? Where's Potato? What's taking so long? It took all of Leo's effort to squeeze his way out of the noisy, chaotic crowd. Excuse me, let me through. I know the author. I'm not trying to cut in line. I just want to say hi. A guy next to him scoffed. Yeah, right. Everyone here knows the author. I'm a premium subscriber. I've even donated $20. Leo waved his hand, tried to explain. No, you don't understand. We actually know each other. I'm the developer of the browser game, based on his novel. Before he could finish, a commotion swept through the crowd. He's here. Potato's here. A young, scholarly-looking man with glasses and a slightly square head walked onto the stage. He seemed a little shy, waving tentatively at the massive crowd below. Hi, everyone. I'm Potato. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Leo was about to wave and say hello, but the next second, the crowd erupted. So you're the infamous Potato? You think you can get by with only 2 chapters a day? When is the hero finally going to get his revenge? Give us an answer. If you keep dragging this out, we're going to send you hate mail. Hey, Potato, I've got something for you. Meet me in the men's room. The roar of the crowd swelled, finally coalescing into a single, unified chant. No more waiting. Update now. To hell with lazy authors. The crowd was a furious mob. Potato, on stage, was stunned. The Scrollverse staff were stunned. And Leo, in the crowd, took a sharp breath. Now he understood why so much of the convention security had been assigned to this booth. If they weren't here, the author's life would be in serious danger. The guy next to Leo, who had been shouting the loudest, turned to him. What were you saying before? What don't I understand? Leo's pupils contracted for a fraction of a second. Then he regained his composure. Nothing. I was just saying I don't know that guy on stage at all. We have the most ordinary reader-author relationship. The guy nodded in understanding and clapped him on the back. That's right. We're all in this together. Hey, how come you're not chanting with us? His question drew the attention of the people around them, who turned to Leo with unfriendly stares. On one side was his close partner and friend. On the other were a bunch of angry strangers. The choice was obvious. The next second, Leo turned, raised his fist, and shouted with all his might. No more waiting. Update now. To hell with lazy authors. He blended in perfectly. Survival first. What potato? To hell with potato. He even started to get into it, taking the lead. We want the climax. The other fans roared in response. We want the climax. He raised his fist again. 10 chapters a day. The fans, and even the parrot on his shoulder, joined in. 10 chapters. 10 chapters. Potato and the staff on stage were stunned again. What the hell? They're organized. Who is that guy in the Aragorn costume? He's a natural at this. A staff member finally came to his senses and grabbed a megaphone, trying to placate the crowd. Everyone, please calm down. Let us explain. Potato has been working day and night to write. The upcoming climax is in the works. But because we have to coordinate with the release of the browser game, we had to slow down the pace a bit. Leo's ears perked up. This wasn't good. They were trying to shift the blame to him. He couldn't let that happen. He immediately raised his voice again. They're lying. It has nothing to do with the game. It's the publisher's fault. To hell with Scrollverse, brothers. The crowd, whipped into a frenzy by Leo, roared in unison. To hell with Scrollverse. The situation was escalating. The security captain in charge of the booth's face changed. He quickly got on his radio to call for backup. Meanwhile, Penny Fong, who was coordinating security, got the news and immediately dispatched another team to the booth. Then, remembering her boss was over there, she quickly called him. Hello, Mr. Wallace, where are you? There's a riot at the Battle Through the Heavens signing. Be careful. At that very moment, in the middle of the crowd, Leo answered his phone. It's fine. I'm standing with the people. Then, under the admiring and reverent gazes of the surrounding fans, he raised his fist one more time. Let's go, brothers. We'll maintain order. Let's make our demands reasonably. To hell with Scrollverse. His followers roared in response. Yeah. On the other end of the line, Penny was confused. Wait a minute. I think I just found a ringleader. With a MasterCon artist like Leo Hammer Wallace on the scene, the disturbance at the Battle Through the Heavens signing was never going to spiral out of control. Leo led the crowd of fans in a few impassioned chants, letting them blow off some steam. Then, acting as their representative, he strode forward with an air of righteous indignation to negotiate with the person in charge of the Scrollverse booth. He managed to secure a pile of compensation for his temporary followers. Merchandise, gift bags, author-exclusive sign copies, and more. The Scrollverse manager was grinding his teeth, but with a mob of glaring fans watching his every move, he couldn't refuse. He had no choice but to swallow his pride and agree through a pained smile. As Leo turned to leave, the manager couldn't resist asking through clenched teeth, "What's your name, friend? Next time you're near our headquarters, you should stop by for a visit. We'll be sure to give you a warm welcome." Leo waved a magnanimous hand. "The name isn't important. I'm just an ordinary reader." And with that, amidst the manager's simmering rage and the fans' adoring gazes, he turned and walked away, a hero who had done a good deed without leaving a name, not taking so much as a single cloud with him. The fans watched his dashing figure depart, deeply moved. They waved enthusiastically. "Take care, Aragorn. Hope to see you again." Once he was clear of the signing area, Leo slipped away. His original plan had been a simple online-to-offline meetup with Potato, but seeing the chaos, he decided against it for now. He'd wait until Potato was done dealing with his passionate fanbase. He pulled out his phone, logged into AIM, and sent Potato a message asking if he'd be free after the signing. If so, they could grab dinner. A reply came quickly. Potato, who was clearly shocked, was furiously typing under the table while the line of fans was being organized. "Potato, bro, how did you know I was at signing?" "Leo, I was just there. That one sentence stunned Potato again. Potato, you were here? No way. Did you see the whole scene just now? Holy shit, it was terrifying. There was this one dude cosplaying as Aragorn. I thought he was about to lead a fan riot. Leo grinned and typed back a reassuring message. Leo, nah, it wouldn't have gone that far. I know my limits. I wouldn't do something like that. Potato nodded in relief as he read it. Potato, oh good, good. A second later, the realization hit him. Potato, wait a minute. Huh? Potato, holy shit, Aragorn was you? Since he was still busy with the signing, Potato, having learned the truth, could only grumble that he would let Leo off the hook for now, promising to settle the score in person later. Leo just laughed and said he was looking forward to it. They agreed to get in touch after the event. Just as Leo was about to put his phone away, a call came in from Claire. He answered, and his girlfriend's melodic voice filled his ear. Where are you? Leo glanced at the designation on a nearby pillar. A3, over by the Scrollverse booth. There's a Battle Through the Heavens signing. I was just checking out the commotion. Claire knew her boyfriend had bought the browser game rights and was working with the author. She was a little surprised. What a coincidence. Then, as if remembering something, she added, I just saw a bunch of security guards rushing towards the Scrollverse booth. Did you start something? Leo was exasperated. Why is it that every time something happens, you assume I'm the one who caused it? Her voice was teasing, wasn't it? Without missing a beat, he admitted it was as expected of Bertha Sue. She knew her boyfriend inside and out. Leo explained the situation, making sure to boast about how he'd secured all sorts of perks for the fans. Claire couldn't decide whether to be annoyed or amused. You and your antics. That was so inappropriate. Before Leo could protest, she continued. If you were going to ask for stuff, why didn't you ask for more? Molly, Dylan, and Marco are fans too, you know. Leo's eyes widened. He slapped his forehead. You're right. I'll go back right now. No rush. She cut him off. If you're an A3, you're close to the A1 exit. The prop for your Aragorn costume was just delivered. They left it in a locker in the A1 exit corridor. You can grab it on your way. Their Aragorn and Arwen cosplay was missing one key element, Aragorn's greatsword. It just wasn't complete without it. Leo agreed readily. Okay, I'm on my way. The walk from A3 to the A1 exit wasn't long. Leo quickly found the bank of lockers and retrieved the prop his girlfriend had ordered for him. Enduril, the version from the movies. It was a true greatsword, nearly 5 feet long with a blade as wide as a cutting board. Thankfully, it was made of high-density plastic, not actual steel, or he wouldn't have been able to lift it. As it was, he hefted it and estimated it weighed a good 10 or 15 pounds. Swinging, it made a satisfying whoosh. Paired with his costume, it really gave him the air of a heroic ranger. Nodding in satisfaction, Leo slung the sword over his shoulder and started to head back. He'd barely taken a step when he heard a commotion nearby. He looked over and saw a crowd gathered around something. From within the throng, he heard a familiar female voice cry out, What do you think you're doing? Stop being such a pervert. Leo paused. Then, with the greatsword still on his shoulder, he started walking toward the crowd. Inside the circle of people, a girl with a fertilizer sack over her head was shielding another girl, facing off against several young men in their early 20s. It was, of course, the one and only Isabella Zhao. Isabella had just been wandering around excitedly when she'd somehow gotten separated from Wyatt. She found herself in the A section of the convention hall, completely lost. As she looked around, she saw a few guys laughing and pointing at the back of a girl browsing a booth. One of them swaggered over, stood behind the girl, and, while pretending to look at the merchandise, reached out and slapped her hard on the butt. The girl jumped and spun around. Seeing the leering stranger, she angrily shoved him away. In the process, she accidentally snagged the necklace he was wearing, breaking the chain and sending it to the floor. This only energized the guy more. He seized the opportunity, loudly proclaiming that the necklace was a designer brand and demanding that she pay for it. His friends quickly surrounded them, backing him up. Seeing the girl trapped and helpless, Isabella's sense of justice flared, and she immediately stepped in. Now, she was patting the other girl's back reassuringly. It's okay, don't be scared. Then she turned and glared at the young man. It was you who harassed her first. A bunch of guys ganging up on one girl. What kind of man does that make you? The guy who'd made the move was already annoyed that someone was interfering, but when he saw the face under the fertilizer sack, he was completely stunned. His friend's eyes lit up too. The leader of the group let out a low whistle. Damn, Zeke, this one's even hotter. Lucky you. The one called Zeke, whose full name was Zeke K, grinned lecherously. He told his friend, back off, Ching Rue, this one's mine. He stared at Isabella's face, his eyes greedy. Hearing her accusation, he just chuckled. Hey now, beautiful, don't just throw word around. How was I harassing anyone? My hand slipped, that's all. Just a little friendly contact. What's the problem? Isabella was furious. What do you mean your hand slipped? You did it on purpose. Zeke feigned shock. On purpose? Do you have any proof? But she definitely broke my necklace. It's only reasonable that she pay for it, right? His friends chimed in with jeers. Yeah, we saw it. If you break it, you buy it. Isabella was so angry she was speechless. You're shameless. Zeke ignored her, his eyes still fixed on her. He rubbed his hands together. Playing the hero, are we, little miss? How about this? You come hang out with us for a bit, and I'll forget all about the necklace. What do you say? As he spoke, he reached out to touch her cheek. Isabella tensed. What are you doing? She instinctively braced herself, ready to deploy her self-defense moves. But just then, a whooshing sound cut through the air. Before anyone could react, a long, thick, black object came flying through the space between them. The young man named Zeke heard the sound and instinctively turned, but the black shadow was already expanding in his vision. Whack! It slammed into him, sending him sprawling to the ground. The crowd gasped. Zeke's friends rushed forward in a panic. Zeke, are you okay? Isabella was also stunned. She looked down at the black object and realized with a jolt that it was a thick, heavy-looking sword, now lying silently on the floor. Huh. Isabella was completely baffled. What was going on? The leader of the group, Qingrue, shot a cold glare in the direction the sword had come from. Who's there? He yelled. Show yourself. The crowd parted. A handsome figure in a black tunic and a silver mask walked calmly into the clearing. He walked past his #1 employee, picked up the great sword from the ground, and even took a moment to carefully brush the dust off its surface. Then, Leo Wallace looked up at the young men and smiled. Sorry, he said. My hand slipped. Leo himself thought it was uncanny. Trouble just seemed to follow him wherever he went. Punks harassing girls. He'd just dealt with that at the Park Plaza. It didn't feel like that long ago. And now, here it was again. This time, though, there was a slight difference. He wasn't the one who'd gotten into it first. It was his #1 employee, who he thought should have been diligently working in the school's art studio. At that thought, Leo shot a sideways glance at the befuddled Isabella. Isabella was just as dumbfounded. When the handsome man in the black tunic and silver half-mask emerged from the crowd, her first instinct was to gasp, wow, he's hot. Then she realized something was off. The more she looked at the half of his face visible beneath the mask, the more familiar he seemed. And when she heard that familiar voice say, sorry, my hand slipped, it finally clicked. Boss, she blurted out. The next second, reality crashed down on her. Isabella took 2 nervous steps back. Be boss. All the menace from the group of young men vanished instantly, replaced by the panicked guilt of being caught skipping work by her employer. Her first instinct was to bolt. Leo saw right through her and gave her an amused look. We'll settle your account later. Meanwhile, Zeke, who had been unceremoniously smacked to the ground by the flying greatsword, was staggering back to his feet with the help of his friends. He wasn't seriously hurt, just dazed. When he fell, he'd landed hard on a step, and now he winced as he rubbed his backside. Shit! Full of rage and looking for an outlet, Zeke immediately turned and glared at Leo. Who the fuck are you? You got a death wish. Leo, however, remained calm and composed. He even offered a polite, formal bow. Greetings. My name is Aragorn. Zeke, ? The surrounding crowd of onlookers almost burst out laughing. This guy was hilarious. Was he acting out some historical drama? Isabella, standing next to Leo, quickly tattled, Boss, these guys are perverts. They were harassing this young lady, and they were about to start on me. Zeke finally caught on, his eyes landing on Leo with a mocking sneer. Oh look, a white knight coming to the rescue. Just you? You put on a costume, and you really think you're some kind of hero. Zeke rolled up his sleeves, revealing muscular forearms, his face contorting into a menacing grimace. Come on, then. You're a hero, right? Let's see you go around with me. You got the guts. His friends behind him moved forward menacingly, closing the distance. Isabella looked a little nervous. She clenched her fists, but instinctively moved closer to Leo. Leo, however, was unfazed. He looked at Zeke as if he were a special needs child. We live in a society of laws. What's all this about going around? You've been watching too many fantasy movies. His tone was concerned, but the words almost made Zeke choke. You're the one dressed as Aragorn, and you're telling me I've been watching too many fantasy movies? What kind of backward logic is that? Just as his anger was about to boil over again, a sharp voice cut through the air. What's going on here? The crowd instinctively turned toward the voice. A few police officers were striding towards them, led by a middle-aged officer who was none other than Captain Xing. Captain Xing walked up, his expression grim. What happened? The next moment, his eyes fell on the handsome young man dressed as a hero in black. He was wearing a silver half-mask that covered part of his face, but there was something strangely familiar about him. Leo waved a hand in greeting. Captain Xing. Captain Xing. Captain Xing. Stunned, JPG, even the experienced Captain Xing, couldn't help but suck in a sharp breath. No, how is it you again? He was truly baffled. The last time they'd met at the Happy Nest office, he'd had a bad feeling. He never thought this bizarre curse would strike again. Was his magnet for trouble persona really set in stone? Trouble literally followed him everywhere. Seeing Captain Xing talking to Leo, Qingrui, the leader of the group of young men, narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a smile, Officer, perfect timing. This man attacked my friend without any provocation and injured him. Captain, a charge of intentional assault wouldn't be out of line, would it? Captain Xing froze. He first frowned at Qingrui and his friends, then turned to look at Leo. Isabella immediately became frantic. What do you mean, without provocation? You were the ones harassing people first. Leo held up a hand to stop her. He looked at Qingrui and smiled back. That's a pretty heavy accusation. My hand just slipped, and I accidentally hit him with a prop. It's plastic. It couldn't have hurt him that badly. If you're worried, I'll cover the $2 for a copay so your friend can get checked out. Leo paused, then added, but your friend was just harassing a young woman, causing emotional distress. Now, that is some serious damage. Isabella's eyes lit up. All right. The next second, the Berkeley girl dramatically flopped onto the ground. That's right. I was just harassed, and I'm terrified. The kind of terrified that $1 million in emotional damages won't fix. From the crowd's perspective, a fertilizer sack was now lying gracefully on the ground. The scene was utterly absurd. Zeke was furious. Shit, I didn't even touch you. What kind of scam are you pulling? Qingrui's eyes narrowed as he stared at Leo, a smirk playing on his lips. Couldn't have hurt him that badly. Do you believe me when I say I can get a medical report that will bury you? Leo smiled back. Do you believe me when I say there are at least 7 security cameras in this area? If we pull the footage of what your friend did and show it to everyone, who do you think is going down first? Zeke's anger flared. Fuck, are you threatening me? Leo's gaze shifted to Zeke, his smile unwavering, his tone perfectly calm. You have the guts to do something so shameless. Why wouldn't I have the guts to threaten you? Inside the entrance of Hall A1, amidst the crowd, stood Leo, dressed in his black tunic and silver mask. His posture was relaxed and confident as he faced off against Qingrui, Zeke, and their friends. His voice was calm, unhurried, yet seemed to give him the upper hand. His words had Isabella fired up. She scrambled back to her feet, puffed out her chest, and loudly supported her boss. Exactly. You're the ones who did something wrong. All these people saw it, and the police are here. They'll give us justice. You can't get away with this. The crowd of onlookers was growing, and from the back and forth, they had pieced together what had happened. A chorus of agreement and condemnation rose up. This Aragorn guy is right. I saw it too. A bunch of guys harassing a young girl, and they think they're in the right. People like that need to be taught a lesson. Arrest them all. The chorus of denunciation grew louder. The expressions on Zeke and his friends' faces began to change. If this blew up and became a serious incident, they would at the very least be dragged down to the station for questioning. For young men of their status, that would be a major embarrassment. Isabella was practically bouncing with excitement. See? Scared now, aren't you? The evidence is undeniable. Officer, arrest them. However, even under this pressure, Qingrui, the leader of the group, just narrowed his eyes. There was no panic in his expression. Instead, he smiled again. Evidence? What evidence? His tone was playful, as if he didn't take the current situation seriously at all. Isabella's eyes widened in disbelief. Wow, you. The proof is right here, and you're still trying to deny it. You took advantage of this young lady. Before she could finish, Qingrui's gaze had already shifted to the other girl. He raised an eyebrow. Miss, it was just a small misunderstanding. My friend was just joking around with you. If you were offended, I can have him compensate you. As he spoke, he glanced at Zeke. Zeke got the message. He sidled up to the girl with a smarmy grin. Miss, it was all a misunderstanding. My hand really did slip. How about this? You don't have to pay for the necklace. In fact, you can just keep it. We'll call it a gift to a new friend. How does that sound? He held out the broken necklace with a smile. Seeing Zeke approach, the girl flinched and took a nervous step back. But Zeke seemed experienced in these matters. He pressed forward with his smarmy smile and, without waiting for an answer, shoved the necklace into her hand. Don't be shy. We're all friends here. Just take it. This thing is worth a few grand, you know? And look, it suits you perfectly. Isabella sensed something was wrong. Hey, what are you doing? Trying to bribe her in public? Miss, don't listen to him. This guy was out of line. You can't just forgive him. However, the girl seemed to have a timid nature. Ever since the incident began, she had been hiding behind Isabella, never once speaking up for herself. Now, faced with Zeke's shameless, smiling apology and the gift pressed into her hands, she hesitated. When she heard him mention the value of the necklace, a flicker of interest crossed her face. She looked down at the jewelry in her hand, bit her lip, and actually accepted it, murmuring a quiet, "Thank you." A triumphant smirk appeared on Zeke's face. Isabella was frantic. Miss, don't fall for it. But the girl just glanced at Isabella apologetically and said weakly, "It's fine, it wasn't that big of a deal." Then she turned to Captain Shing. "Officer, it was all a misunderstanding. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now." And with that, perhaps to avoid further trouble, or perhaps out of guilt, she clutched the necklace tightly and hurried away, ignoring Isabella's desperate calls. As the girl disappeared into the crowd, a low murmur went through the onlookers. Many shook their heads. It seemed like the matter was over, and they began to disperse. Isabella stared after the girl, unable to accept it. How could she? It wasn't a clear-cut case to begin with. With the victim herself unwilling to press the issue, there was nothing anyone else could do. Isabella's heroic intervention, Leo's sharp-witted confrontation, the arrival of the police, the support of the crowd, all of it had been rendered a meaningless joke by the victim's departure. Zeke turned to Leo, his voice dripping with undisguised malice and contempt. "A necklace worth a few grand. That's just a couple days' allowance for me. I can afford to play this game. Can you, hero?" Qingrui laughed and waved a dismissive hand. "All right, Zeke, that's enough. Let's be forgiving. Our time is precious. Let's go find some fun elsewhere." Then, as if remembering something, he turned back to Leo with a condescending chuckle. "See, being a hero isn't so easy. All that effort, and it can't compete with a stack of cash. How does it feel? A little frustrating, isn't it?" His voice was calm, but it was filled with a patronizing pity. Leo didn't get angry. He looked at Qingrui and smiled back. "Paying your way out of trouble. You must feel pretty proud of yourself, huh?" A taunting smirk played on Qingrui's lips. "Yeah, having money means you can be proud. What, you got a problem with that? If you do, you'll just have to suck it up. We're gonna go find some other girls to have fun with. If you're so worried, why don't you follow us? Maybe you'll get another chance to play the hero." At his words, Zeke and the others roared with laughter. It was a bold, unrestrained sound. Captain Shing frowned, considering whether to reprimand them. Isabella was so angry, she was practically vibrating. You've gone too far." But Leo just smiled and shook his head. "I won't be following you. It's cold outside the convention hall. You should all just go home." His words made the laughing young men pause. What was that? Who said anything about going home? Zeke, recovering, shot Leo a look of utter contempt, as if he were a clown. "What's that supposed to mean? You're kicking us out? You think you run this place?" Ha ha ha. Another round of arrogant laughter. Amidst the noise, Leo just nodded. "Yep, I do." As he spoke, the sound of hurried footsteps approached. The crowd turned to see Penny Fong, who had clearly just gotten a call from her boss, striding towards them with a grim expression, a team of convention security guards in tow. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the remaining onlookers. Qingrui's pupils contracted slightly. A thought occurred to him, but it seemed too absurd to be real. The next moment, Leo turned to his subordinate and gave a simple, understated order. "These guys, causing a disturbance, harassing visitors. Follow the rules. Kick them out." Then, under the stunned gazes of the young men and the astonished gasps of the crowd, Penny Fong nodded without hesitation. The security team stepped forward, their faces stern and serious. "Gentlemen, please." The words were polite, but they carried an unyielding coldness. Isabella was speechless. Captain Shing reached up and rubbed his nose, shaking his head inwardly. He couldn't believe someone was actually dumb enough to challenge this kid. Leo turned back to Qingrui, whose face had turned grim. He smiled cheerfully. "See, money isn't everything. You still want to play, but I'm not letting you." He paused, his smile fading. He met Qingrui's eyes and spoke two calm, quiet words. "Gao." No one could have predicted such a sudden and dramatic turn of events. It was so abrupt it felt almost absurd. But within the absurdity, there was a deeply satisfying, cathartic release. One moment, you're flaunting your wealth, contemptuously declaring that money can solve anything. The next, I'm kicking you out. The party's over. Go back where you came from. Take your money and your friends and get lost. At this point, it wasn't just Zeke and his friends. Even Xingrui, the calmest and most composed of the group, was blindsided by the reversal. His face became incredibly ugly. And to make matters worse, Leo wasn't one to let things go. He looked at Xingrui and calmly twisted the knife. What? You got a problem with that? If you do, you'll just have to suck it up. He threw the exact words back at him. Isabella was practically vibrating with excitement. She almost started clapping like a seal and cheering for her boss. Xingrui's face turned ashen. But a moment later, he composed himself, took a deep, long look at Leo, and managed a smile. Interesting. I'll remember this. Let's see if our paths cross again. If you got the guts, leave a name. Even after being publicly humiliated, he was able to quickly regain his composure. His cunning and self-control were clearly a cut above his friends and most ordinary people. Before Leo could respond, Isabella shot him a wary look and tugged on the corner of his tunic. Boss, don't fall for his taunts. In her spare time, Isabella enjoyed reading novels and watching dramas. She knew this classic villain trope. Asking for a name meant he was holding a grudge. This guy was clearly bad news, and who knew what kind of connections he had. It would be a huge problem if he came looking for revenge later. But Leo just waved her concern away. He looked at Xingrui and smiled. No problem. I'll be waiting. Before Isabella could protest further, he calmly announced his name. Remember it. My name is Mr. Zhou. Isabella? ? Xingrui narrowed his eyes slightly. Mr. Zhou. He repeated the name twice, as if committing it to memory. Then he nodded and smiled at Leo. You've got guts. We'll meet again. Leo nodded politely back. See you around. But for now, you have to leave. The friendly reminder made the smile on Xingrui's face freeze again. His expression turned cold. He waved a hand, and with Zeke and his other friends in tow, he turned and strode quickly out of the hall. Their departing figures lacked the arrogance they'd had just moments before, replaced by a distinct air of humiliation. With the disturbance over, the onlookers began to disperse, though not without casting a few more curious glances and whispered comments in Leo's direction. Some were already pulling out their phones, no doubt preparing to post about the incident on their Happy Nest accounts. This would surely become a hot topic from the day's events. Leo turned to Captain Xing and smiled, giving him a respectful nod. Captain, thank you for your hard work. Captain Xing looked at Leo and shook his head with a mixture of amusement and admiration. You kid. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm heading out. He and his two officers turned and left to continue their patrol. As Captain Xing departed, Penny Fong was also preparing to dismiss the security team. Before she left, however, she couldn't help but steal another glance at Isabella. Seeing the delicate face beneath the fertilizer sack, even the veteran executive was stunned. She recognized her and leaned in to whisper to Leo, Mr. Wallace, is that Isabella Zhao? During the Campus All-Stars contest, the photo of the top-ranked girl from Berkeley had been widely circulated within Happy Nest. Many employees had become her fans, even voting for her. There were even rumors that she might be their young boss's girlfriend. Leo nodded. Yeah, he said, adding an explanation. She also did some of the art outsourcing for Brainiac Blitz. Penny was impressed. She looked Isabella up and down again and lowered her voice. So she's the boss's wife? She hadn't yet seen Claire in person, so the mistake was understandable. Leo was exasperated. He shook his head. No. The gossip lover in Penny ignited. She's this beautiful, and she's not? Mr. Wallace, you've got quite the game. One in the kitchen and one in the living room, Leo shot her a look. It sounds like you don't have enough work to do. Should I ask Mr. Ching to give you some more responsibilities? Penny vanished in a flash. Ahaha. I just remembered I have something to do. I'll be off then, Mr. Wallace, bye. The next second, she and the security team were gone. Leo shook his head in resignation. Everyone in this company. They were all a handful. He turned his attention back to Isabella, only to see her, still wearing the conspicuous fertilizer sack, trying to sneak away along the wall. Leo's mouth twitched. Where do you think you're going? Isabella froze mid-step. She turned around, a fawning smile on her face. Boss, you were so cool just now. As expected of you. You tricked them with a fake name. She gushed. You have no idea how worried I was that you were going to give them your real name, Kevin Zhao. Leo rubbed his nose. Actually, giving them Kevin's name would have been fine. He then gave his number one employee a pointed look. Enough with the flattery. It's time to settle your account. Isabella's face immediately fell into a pitiful frown. Boss, I was wrong. Leo raised an eyebrow. Wrong about what? Isabella launched into a heartfelt self-criticism, her words tumbling out. I shouldn't have skipped work to come to the convention, and I shouldn't have gotten into trouble and dragged you into it. And it was all for nothing anyway. That girl didn't even appreciate it and just ran off. She pouted, a little dejected. Don't worry, boss. Next time I see something like this, I'll definitely. Before she could finish, Leo cut her off. Next time you see something like this, you step in again. Isabella froze, looking up at him in confusion. She was met with his calm, gentle gaze. She ran off because she didn't want to make a scene, because she was scared of getting into trouble. That's not wrong. You stepping in to help was definitely not wrong. Next time it happens, don't hesitate. If you can't handle it, I'll back you up. His calm words seemed to carry a reassuring power. Isabella stared at him, her eyes turning a little red. She felt a lump in her throat. Boss. Then his next words floated over. But skipping work is a separate issue. You lose your perfect attendance bonus for this month. The touching atmosphere shattered instantly. Isabella was aghast. No, boss, please. Then a thought struck her. She wasn't going down alone. She had to take someone with her. She scurried over to him and whispered conspiratorially, Boss, it wasn't just me. Wyatt skipped work too. He made me come. And right now he's off getting some pretty girl's number and flirting with her. In Hall B of the convention center, Wyatt Way sneezed. He rubbed his nose, looking around in confusion. Did he just get the feeling someone was talking about him behind his back? He and Isabella had just met back up in Hall B, only to get separated again almost immediately. His project lead, Isabella, might not have the highest IQ. Her mental age seemed to be about 3, but as the it girl of Berkeley's arts department, she was like a kid in a candy store at the convention, completely letting loose and having a blast. Her behavior was a stark contrast to her stunning looks and elegant demeanor. But Wyatt was used to it. He'd grown accustomed to Isabella's personality from working with her. Besides, he'd seen far more absurd things. The childhood friend he'd grown up with, Claire the Demoness, was a cold, stunning ice queen on the surface, but in reality, she was ruthless enough to kill without batting an eye. Compared to her, Isabella's little quirks were nothing. Being left on his own didn't bother Wyatt. He wandered around the venue, observing the layout and organization of the convention with a growing sense of appreciation. With his eye for detail, he could see the clever design choices the organizers had made. The person behind this was a master. As he strolled aimlessly through the hall, the eldest grandson of the Way family inadvertently became a sight to behold himself. His figure, face, and bearing were already handsome and striking. And the tuxedo mask costume he'd changed into to avoid a few acquaintances only enhanced his elegant, mysterious aura. The tailored suit and black and red cape, paired with the white half-mask, drew the infatuated gazes of countless young women. Some were bold enough to ask for photos, while others blushed as they asked for his contact information. Among them were several beautiful girls and cosplayers who would flirtatiously touch his arm as they spoke, dropping subtle hints. Wyatt handled it all with grace and propriety. He posed for photos and made small talk, but when he tried to take things further, he would politely decline with a smile. After finally shaking off the swarm of admirers, Wyatt let out a sigh of relief. He looked at the handful of small cards and slips of paper with phone numbers on them, and shook his head helplessly. With nowhere to put them, he decided to tuck them away. As he reached for his pocket, his fingers brushed against another card. He pulled it out. On it was a phone number. He remembered now. Isabella had given it to him earlier, bragging about how she had done him a huge favor by getting the number of a girl who was so beautiful it was unreal. He smiled again, not taking her words to heart. Even if Isabella, with her own stunning looks, had praised another girl so highly, perhaps the girl really was exceptionally beautiful. But it was the same old story he'd told himself and everyone around him countless times. Love was not in the cards for him. That kind of exquisite luxury item? He was allergic. However, just as he was about to put the card away, he paused. Truth be told, in all these years, even counting his childhood friend whose beauty and temperament were perfect, there was only one person who had ever made his heart flutter, even for a second. It was the girl he had caught a fleeting glimpse of by the flower beds at the East Bay Amusement Park on Children's Day. Her lonely figure amidst the joyful crowd, her stubborn pride hiding a fragile vulnerability. In that one instant, it had struck a chord with him, a feeling of shared experience. Unfortunately, he hadn't been able to see her face clearly, nor had he been able to approach her. Instead, he'd ended up getting punched in the face by some crazy woman in a haunted house. Just as luck, Wyatt subconsciously touched the spot on his forehead where he'd been hit, still wincing at the memory. He shook his head, clearing his thoughts. It was a shame, but fate was something you couldn't force. It probably just wasn't meant for him. As he was thinking this with a self-deprecating smile, he heard a sudden commotion and a gasp from up ahead. Wyatt looked up. HM. In Hall B, Anna realized she was lost again. After parting with the cute girl in the fertilizer sack, she had hurried towards Hall A to meet up with her brother and sister-in-law. But after wandering around in circles in Hall B, she was completely disoriented. Dejected, Anna sat down on a nearby step to rest, temporarily abandoning her plan. She sent a text to her sister-in-law, asking them to come get her. Even just sitting on the steps, the East Bay financial girl, dressed as Sailor Moon, was a striking sight. Her costume, looks, and aura drew countless admiring gazes. Soon, people were gathering the courage to ask for photos. Anna graciously agreed, smiling and posing for pictures or making small talk. But whenever someone asked for her contact information, she would just smile and politely decline. The hopefuls could sense the distance behind her polite smile and would retreat, leaving her in peace. The girl on the steps watched the various cosplayers with interest. But when she saw couples walking by, laughing and holding hands, a pang of loneliness hit her. Even though she had told her closest friends that she felt she had lost the ability to fall for someone, seeing others in pairs, while not making her envious, still left her feeling a little wistful. A festival like this was meant to be enjoyed with company. Like her brother and sister-in-law, who were apparently dressed as Aragorn and Arwen. They must look perfect together. No matter how much effort she put into her own costume, she was still alone. For some reason, Anna thought of the girl in the fertilizer sack. She had been so insistent on introducing her to a friend, someone cosplaying as Tuxedo Mask, the male lead from Sailor Moon. She'd said they would make a perfect pair. Sailor Moon, Tuxedo Mask. If they teamed up at a convention, it might actually be pretty cool. The thought made her smile, but she quickly shook her head, dismissing it. It was just a passing fancy. Still, she was a little curious. What did this Tuxedo Mask, who the fertilizer sack girl had hyped up so much, actually look like? Suddenly, a commotion and a cry of alarm from nearby snapped her out of her thoughts. Anna looked up and heard an urgent shout. "Stop! Thief!" Then, she saw a man in a dark gray hoodie clutching a woman's purse, shoving his way through the crowd and running away. A young woman was chasing after him, stumbling and shouting. She was clearly not going to catch him. A thief. Anna shot to her feet. The heroic genes instilled in her by the Wallace family instantly kicked in. In broad daylight? How bold! "Leave it to me," Annie Cakes shouted. Sailor Moon, deployed. The next moment, the girl took off, her long legs a blur as she sprinted after the fleeing thief. Meanwhile, back at the entrance to Hall A, Captain Shing, who had just returned to his post, was about to take a sip of water his subordinate had handed him. He was contentedly thinking that his quota of trouble from the magnet couple was probably filled for the day. The rest of his shift should be smooth sailing. The next second, his walkie-talkie crackled to life. "Captain, situation in Hall B. A thief in a gray hoodie snatched a purse and is on the run. Might be heading toward Hall." Captain Shing slammed the water bottle down. "Copy that. Block the exits. What's the target status? Do you have eyes on him?" The voice on the other end was breathless. "We're on our way. The victim just reported that someone is chasing the thief. It's a Sailor Moon. Captain Shing. ? Back in Hall B, hearing the commotion, Wyatt instinctively looked up. He happened to be standing at the bottom of a sloped walkway. At the top, he saw a man in a gray hoodie clutching a purse, running frantically in his direction. A clear, melodic female voice shouted from behind, "Stop, thief! Stop him!" It all happened so fast that Wyatt barely had time to react. The thief was moving at top speed. By the time the voice rang out, he was already hurtling down the ramp, about to brush past Wyatt. On pure instinct, Wyatt reached out and grabbed the man's collar. The thief's momentum, however, threw him off balance. He stumbled, spinning around. His view was suddenly twisted, but in that split second, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a brilliant figure at the top of the ramp. Long, golden pigtails flew in the wind. A pure white sailor uniform and short skirt outlined a breathtaking figure. For a moment, Wyatt was dazed. Is that Sailor Moon? At the same instant, Anna, who had just reached the top of the ramp, saw the thief below and was overjoyed. "You're not getting away." The next second, she placed a hand on the railing, vaulted over it, and launched a flying kick at the thief below. In that same instant, the cornered thief wrenched himself free from Wyatt's grasp and violently shoved him forward. He then used the momentum to dive into a roll and scramble away. Wyatt, caught off guard, stumbled forward. He looked up just in time to see a pair of stunningly long legs and a brilliant, bright blur hurtling towards him. Anna was equally stunned. In midair, she saw her target had already escaped, but she couldn't stop her momentum. A cry of "watch out" died in her throat as she saw her pink-booted foot about to connect with the innocent bystander. In that split second, Annie Cakes caught a glimpse of the person's costume and had a fleeting thought. Huh? A tuxedo? A mask? The thought vanished as she cried out in alarm, "Watch out." It was too late. Thwack! With a heavy thud, the one who'd lost her faith in love and the one who was allergic to it had their second intimate encounter. When Leo returned, strolling leisurely with the greatsword slung over his shoulder, he found Claire surrounded by a group of high school girls begging for a photo. Dressed as Arwen in a flowing white gown, her skin was as white as snow. She had the ethereal air of a celestial being, yet she smiled warmly and agreed to their request, making the girls feel even more drawn to her. After a few photos, the girls were officially converted into loyal fans. They clung to her hand, reluctant to let go, and even asked for her contact info. "Miss, what's your Happy Nest account name? We want to follow you and like your posts." Watching the scene, Leo smiled with gentle appreciation. Then a few high school boys timidly approached. "Miss, what's your AIM screen name? Can we add you as a friend?" Leo Hammer Wallace's brow furrowed. His hand suddenly itched. His greatsword was practically begging to chop something. He strode forward, sword in hand, his voice booming before he even arrived. "Honey, what are you chatting about?" The high schoolers turned to the sound of his voice. "Honey?" When they saw the handsome Aragorn in his black tunic and silver mask, the girls' eyes lit up with delight. "Wow, it's Aragorn. Mister, are you and the Miss a couple? You look so perfect together." The boys, however, saw the heavy, menacing greatsword he was carrying and shivered. Was that a murderous aura? Claire looked up, heard her boyfriend's deliberately possessive "honey," and immediately saw through his jealous little ploy. A small smile played on her lips. She turned to the high school boys and said with a gentle smile, "I don't really give out my AIM, but you can follow our social media account on Happy Nest. Just search for The Reasonable Couple." Then she turned to her boyfriend and explained with a sweet smile, "It's nothing. I was just taking a photo with them." Leo nodded as if he understood perfectly. A photo. Photos are good. No problem with photos. He then shot a sideways glance at the boys. "Are you done? How about you take a few with me?" As he spoke, he casually swung the greatsword a few times. The blade glinted menacingly. The boys trembled, shaking their heads vigorously. No, you two talk. We just remember we have to be somewhere, so we'll just be going." They turned and fled. The girls, however, weren't scared at all. They were captivated by his handsome Aragorn cosplay and approached with stars in their eyes. "Wow, mister, can we take a photo with you? And can we add you on AIM?" Leo's opinion of the girls immediately shot up. See, they were all high schoolers, but these girls were so much more sensible and adorable than those boys. He grandly raised his sword. "No prob." Before he could get the last word out, a fragrant breeze wafted over him, and his arm was suddenly seized by his girlfriend. Claire pressed up against him and said to the girls with a radiant smile, "Sorry, my husband is taken. It wouldn't be appropriate." One word, husband, and her claim was staked. She then smiled at the high school girls. "You probably have other things to do, right? We won't keep you." Her tone was warm and caring. But somehow, Leo's greatsword had magically appeared in her hand. She swung it casually a few times, the blade glinting, exuding a murderous aura. The girls shivered and nodded obediently. "All right, we do have other things to do. We'll be going then, goodbye." As he watched the girls leave, Leo gave his girlfriend a sideways look. "Not so innocent yourself. Are you Bertha Sue? Almost added some little punks on AIM while I was gone." Claire shot him a look back, one eyebrow raised. "And you've got some nerve, Leo Hammer, trying to get friendly with high school girls right in front of me." That shut him up. He thought for a moment, then suggested, "Call it even." Claire nodded readily, adding, "Don't let it happen again." Leo agreed just as quickly. Deal. The reasonable couple had reached an agreement. They held hands again, sweet as ever. "That, honey, you said earlier sounded nice. Say it again." "Your husband wasn't bad either. You first." Claire wrinkled her nose. "In your dreams." She looked at the greatsword in Leo's hand and nodded in satisfaction. "You got it back? You look much more handsome like this." Leo swung the sword again with great gravitas. "Of course. I am Aragorn." Claire giggled. "Leo, you're so childish." Then she snuggled up to him again, pulling out her phone. "Come on, let's take another one." After a few more couple selfies, Claire put her phone away, satisfied. Then, as if remembering something, she turned to him. "By the way, what took you so long to get one prop?" Leo smiled. "Ran into a little something on the way. Played the hero for a bit." He then briefly explained what had happened at the A1 exit. Claire understood immediately. It didn't surprise her at all that her boyfriend would run into something like that. She even commented, "You're a magnet for trouble. Everywhere you go, chaos follows." Leo gave her a look. That's the pot calling the kettle black, as if you weren't there for all the other times. Claire's curiosity was piqued. Isabella is here too? Where is she? She was quite fond of her boyfriend's #1 employee. Leo waved a hand dismissively. I caught her skipping work. She felt guilty and ran off to get back to it. If she doesn't work hard, how am I supposed to buy a new car and a house? Claire was both amused and exasperated. She pointed a finger at him. Leo, you're an evil capitalist. Leo, unblinking, took her hand. Then you're the evil capitalist queen. Claire frowned in protest. What kind of name is that? It sounds awful. I don't want to be that. Leo put on a villainous smirk. You're already on the pirate ship. It's too late to get off. Before she could react, he leaned in and kissed her. When they broke apart, Claire's face was flushed, and she was breathing a little heavily. She gave him a playful, smoldering look and finally relented. Fine, evil capitalist queen it is. In that case, all of the company's profits get turned over to me. Leo didn't hesitate. No problem. Mako Entertainment's main income comes from Wyatt anyway. You could just talk to him about it. Claire's eyes lit up thoughtfully. Wyatt the punching bag? In that case, maybe we can try to break 100 million in revenue this year. The evil power couple went back and forth, plotting and scheming. In their enthusiastic planning to boost Mako Entertainment's revenue, they nearly carved up Wyatt's entire family fortune. Fortunately, a phone call interrupted their conversation. Leo looked at the caller ID. It was Potato. He answered the phone. Hey Leo, you free right now? Potato's voice came through the receiver. Leo was curious. Aren't you still at the signing? Potato explained that the signing had started, but the sheer number of fans had quickly overwhelmed the booth space. The Scrollverse manager had to make an emergency arrangement with the venue to move the event to a larger area for safety reasons. This meant, according to Potato, that he would be stuck signing for the rest of the day with no breaks. However, during the transition, he had a small window of free time and wanted to meet up with Leo. Leo was happy to oblige. They agreed on a meeting spot and said they'd be there shortly. After hanging up, Claire looked over. The author of Battle Through the Heavens? Leo nodded with a smile. Yep. Mako Entertainment's first real money-making partner. Come on, I'll introduce you. Claire nodded eagerly and gracefully extended her arm. Lead the way. Leo smiled, and under the envious gazes of the surrounding visitors, he took her hand. Let's go. A short while later, they arrived at another corner of Hall A. A new, larger stage had been set up for the signing, and in front of it, a massive crowd of fans was already gathered, clutching their copies of the book and craning their necks in anticipation. Claire raised her eyebrows in surprise. The fans are really passionate. In her past life, she knew the novel had been adapted into comics and even a TV series. But seeing the fervor of the very first book signing with her own eyes made the impact much more real. At that thought, Claire glanced at her boyfriend. The little fool doesn't seem to have much of a talent for business, but his luck and instincts are pretty good. To stumble upon such a massive IP for a simple browser game. Unable to think of any other explanation, she quickly came to a satisfying conclusion. He must have accumulated all this good fortune by having such a beautiful and intelligent girlfriend. Claire Sterling deserved the primary credit. Leo, oblivious to his girlfriend's inner monologue, just shrugged at her comment, remembering the scene from earlier. You have no idea. They were even more passionate before. They chatted as they walked forward. A fan in the line turned around, annoyed. Hey, no cutting. Then he recognized Leo, and his face lit up. Aragorn, you're back. What's the plan? Are we starting another riot? He and the fans around him immediately started rolling up their sleeves, looking eager for a fight. Leo was mortified. He shot a guilty look at his girlfriend. Claire just smirked back, her eyes saying, a magnet for trouble wherever you go, and you still say you're not cursed. At that moment, the fans also noticed Claire, dressed as Arwen, standing next to Leo. They were stunned. Whoa, a goddess. Aragorn, is this your wife? Aragorn and Arwen. She's so beautiful. You guys are perfect together. A torrent of compliments poured out. Claire couldn't help but smile, her eyes curving into crescent moons. She nodded and greeted the fans. This only made them more enthusiastic, and the flattery intensified. Pleased, Claire began rummaging through her purse. Is anyone hungry? I have some cookies. Leaving his girlfriend to chat with the fans, Leo made his way through the crowd to the front to speak with the event coordinator. As he approached, the coordinator recognized his Aragorn costume immediately. The editor from Scrollverse face changed. You again? He then noticed the greatsword slung over Leo's shoulder and sucked in a sharp breath. What's this? You brought a weapon this time? Leo was exasperated. He explained that he was friends with Potato and was just there to say hi. The coordinator, who had been prepped by Potato, finally relaxed and pointed him toward the break room behind the stage. Leo pushed open the door and saw Potato sitting at a table. Hearing the door open, the author looked up. His eyes lit up when he saw Leo. Leo smiled and gave a mock bow. Potato. Potato beamed and rushed forward, giving Leo a warm hug. Dude, it really was you. He looked Leo up and down, amazed. You even cosplayed. I never would have pegged you for a nerd, man. A true single geek, huh? Leo just smiled and waved a hand. Just for fun. I have a girlfriend. Potato patted him on the shoulder sympathetically. It's okay, I get it. What's wrong with being single? We geeks have nothing to be ashamed of. Even if you don't have a girlfriend, you still have your two hands. He was in the middle of his passionate speech when the door opened again. Claire walked in leisurely. Seeing the two of them, she greeted them. Already chatting? Why didn't you call me? The air in the room froze. Potato turned, saw Claire, and his mind went completely blank. He could barely breathe. He looked dumbly at Leo, his voice stammering. Who is this? Leo grinned. Claire Sterling. My wife. Potato. The future king of web novels stood there, stunned, like a simpleton. His world was shattering around him. Bro, I thought you were joking. You actually have a girlfriend? It took a while for Potato to recover from the shocking reality that his insightful and like-minded friend, Leo, actually had a girlfriend who looked like a celestial being. Once they were all seated and chatting, Potato still couldn't help but stare at Claire, sighing in awe. Wow, she's unbelievably beautiful. When I write my female leads, I don't even dare to describe them as looking like this. A novelist's flattery was on another level. The compliment even made Claire smile. You're too kind. Your novel is amazing. I'm a big fan. I follow all your updates. That one sentence was like a shot of adrenaline for Potato. His face lit up. Really? A beauty like you likes my novel? It's my honor. If you have any suggestions, just let me know. I'll change it. Claire shook her head with a smile. No suggestions, it's all great. Although, she paused, as if remembering something, the recent chapters. They seem to have gotten a little more steamy, haven't they? Potato's eyes widened in realization. Oh, you mean the descriptions of the long legs and ample. Ahem. That was something Leo and I discussed. Before he could finish, Leo, sensing danger, quickly cut him off. He came to me for advice, and I strongly advised against it. I tried to talk him out of it for ages, but he just wouldn't listen. He then turned to Potato and scolded him righteously. See, I told you not to write so much smut. Novels should be positive and uplifting. Otherwise, how can you face all your female readers and fans? Turning back to his girlfriend, he puffed out his chest. Don't worry, Claire. I'll set him straight. Potato. He wasn't sure what had just happened, but he had a distinct feeling he'd just been framed. Claire saw right through her boyfriend's little act and was both amused and exasperated, though she didn't make a big deal of it. What really surprised her was another detail from their conversation. Leo helps you with ideas for your novel? Potato nodded without hesitation. Of course. We used to chat online every day. A lot of the time when I was stuck on the plot, Leo would help me brainstorm. Claire was intrigued. She looked at her boyfriend. He has that kind of talent. Even in her past life, she knew that Battle Through the Heavens was a massive hit and that its author, Potato, had become a legend. But she'd never heard of anyone else helping him with the writing. And in her 2 lifetimes of knowing Leo, she'd never once suspected he had a talent for writing. Potato, however, was getting animated. Seriously, Claire, I'm not exaggerating. Leo's a genius. He understands my plot better than I do sometimes. His ideas are more polished than my own. I honestly think if he wrote his own book, he'd be a huge success. He showered Leo with praise. Leo just waved his hands modestly. You're exaggerating. I'm okay with brainstorming, but I don't have that kind of skill. My greatest skill in this life was finding a good wife. The last sentence was a sudden pivot. He turned and, without batting an eye, pledged his loyalty to his girlfriend. Claire couldn't help but laugh, her earlier suspicion forgotten. She gave him a playful glare. What are you talking about? Don't you have any shame? Leo looked at her with righteous indignation. What do you mean? I'm speaking from the heart. Take notes. All you single guys, take notes. This is pure gold. This is how you land a girlfriend this beautiful. With just a few words, he had his girlfriend beaming. The two of them held hands affectionately. The future king of web novels, sitting next to them, felt like a stray dog that had just been kicked. Seriously? We're just talking, and you have to shove your PDA in my face. The three of them had a pleasant chat, But soon the Scrollverse coordinator came in to remind Potato that the signing was about to restart. Not wanting to hold him up, Leo and Claire got up to leave. Potato was reluctant to see them go, but they promised to get together again soon, his treat. After leaving the break room, they were planning to meet up with their friends when Claire suddenly remembered something. Oh, right. Annie Cakes said she was lost in Hall B and asked us to come get her. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend/sister-in-law. Hey, Annie, your brother and I are together. We're coming to find you. Where are you now? She listened for a moment as Anna said something on the other end, her expression turning puzzled. Leo asked curiously, where is she? Claire hung up the phone and looked at her boyfriend, her expression strange. The police station. Now. A few moments later, at the local police precinct just outside the East Bay Sports Stadium, Leo and Claire walked in and were immediately greeted by Anna, dressed as Sailor Moon, waving enthusiastically. Over here. They walked over. Leo's face was a thundercloud. What did you do this time? Anna puffed out her chest indignantly. What do you mean? I was being a hero, upholding the proud Wallace family tradition. I caught a thief. Leo and Claire both froze. A thief? Just then, the sound of footsteps approached. Captain Shing walked out of his office, holding a report. All right, miss, just sign here. He looked up and saw the magnet couple standing next to Anna. Captain Shing's face froze. Leo gave him a sheepish wave. Captain Shing, we meet again. Captain Shing. He stared at them, dumbfounded. Feeling like he was seeing things, he rubbed his eyes and looked again. It was really them. He then looked at Anna and had a sudden realization. Wait a minute, the incident at the Park Plaza. This young lady was there too, wasn't she? You're all together. Anna slung an arm around both Leo and Claire and proudly puffed out her chest. Yep, this is my brother and sister-in-law. Captain Shing felt a twitch in his eyelid. Reasonable. It was so damn reasonable. There had only been 2 incidents today, and somehow both were connected to this cursed couple. They were nothing if not consistent. Leo and Claire finally understood that Anna hadn't caused trouble, but had actually been a hero, helping to catch a thief at the convention. Anna was now proudly boasting to her brother and sister-in-law. You should have seen me. I caught up to him so easily. One kick, and he was down. It was so cool. I was like Sailor Moon herself. Leo was skeptical. Really? You can do that? Claire, however, was more concerned. She looked her best friend/sister-in-law up and down. That was so reckless. Are you okay? Anna waved a dismissive hand. Of course I'm fine, but... She paused, looking a little guilty. I'm not so sure about the other guy. Back in Hall B, Isabella was animatedly recounting her earlier adventure to her colleague. Wow, you should have seen it. I was playing the hero, surrounded by these thugs, and then the boss just swooped in like a god. It was so cool. As she was talking, she noticed something. Hey, what's wrong with you? She asked Wyatt. Why are you holding your back? Wyatt was clutching his lower back, wincing in pain. Just my luck. I got heroed. It had been a complete freak accident. A thief had come out of nowhere, running right into him. Then some crazy woman had come flying out of nowhere after the thief, leaped into the air, and kicked him right in the back. She hadn't even bothered to apologize. By the time he'd recovered, she was gone, still in hot pursuit of the thief. He hadn't even gotten a good look at her. Now, thinking back, he clutched his aching back, grinding his teeth. But he couldn't help but remember the scene. He had a fleeting, hazy memory of the woman's dashing figure as she leaped down from the ramp. A sailor uniform. Golden pigtails. She looked a bit like a Sailor Moon cosplayer. But that wasn't important. What he remembered most clearly were the stunningly long legs and their pink boots. His back was killing him, but the image of her graceful leap was seared into his memory. He had to admit, they were great legs. Leo and Claire picked up Anna from the police station. After she finished giving her statement and signing the report, they were free to go. As they were leaving, Captain Shing personally escorted them to the door. He gripped Leo's hand, his voice filled with the earnest plea of a man who had seen too much. Please, no more trouble. My quota for the day is more than full. He didn't even say goodbye, just take care. He clearly didn't want to risk a third encounter with the magnet couple. On the way back to the convention hall, Leo himself was reflecting. We seem to have been to the police station quite a few times in the last 6 months. Anna, who was clinging to Claire's arm, sagely commented, Exactly. Leo the pig, you're a troublemaker. You need to think about your actions. Leo shot her a look. You've got some nerve. You've been the biggest troublemaker lately. This time, it was catching a thief. The last time, at the Park Plaza, it had been Miss Anna who had smashed a soda bottle over a punk's head. She truly was fearless. Anna shrank back at his words and immediately turned to Claire, tattling in a whiny voice. Claire, your man is being mean to me. Claire just smiled and patted Anna's head. There, there. Don't listen to your brother. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. Anna was satisfied. Claire's the best. Leo the pig, you and I are through. The next second, Claire began rummaging through her purse. Are you hungry? I think I have a few cookies left. Before she could finish, her arm was suddenly free. Anna had let go and scrambled 10 feet away, now clinging to Leo's arm like a lifeline. Brother, let's not be through. Can you please tell your wife, I'm not hungry and I don't want any cookies? They had been delayed at the police station, and by the time they returned, their friends had already completed another lap of the convention hall. They all met up back in Hall A. Everyone was thrilled to see Anna. Annie Cakes. Whoa, is that Sailor Moon? Awesome. Anna was just as happy to see them, greeting everyone warmly and showering the girls with compliments. Molly and Jade, are you guys car captors? So cute. Wow, Quinn, your boa Hancock is perfect. Those legs are deadly. Let me touch. She then turned to the boys from room 520, her eyes lighting up. Leon, is that the Terminator? The American Schwarzenegger. Nice. The date cake guy, beaming from the praise, offered her a homemade date cake. Annie, you hungry? Have some. A date cake was not a cookie. It was edible. Anna happily took one and popped it in her mouth, giving Leon a thumbs up. It's been a while. I missed these. Marco and Dylan shuffled over sheepishly. Annie, what do you think of us? Anna, still chewing, looked them over and offered her praise. Oh, you too. You're great. Gotham needs people like you. Marco and Dylan, ? With the group reunited, they could now wander the convention and take photos together. The girls from room 205 excitedly took several pictures with Anna, gushing over her Sailor Moon costume. It's perfect. Annie, with your figure in that face, you're basically Sailor Moon herself. Quinn then said thoughtfully, you know, a Sailor Moon this beautiful really needs a tuxedo mask to go with her. Molly's eyes lit up in agreement. Yes, a photo of the two of you would get 1 million likes on Happy Nest. Jade scanned the crowd, adjusting her glasses. I haven't seen anyone cosplaying as Tuxedo Mask today. Quinn nodded sagely. That's not surprising. Not just anyone can pull off Tuxedo Mask. You need the looks, the figure, and the charisma. It's a tall order. Marco turned to Anna. Annie, have you seen any handsome guys dressed as Tuxedo Mask? Anna felt a pang of guilt. Tuxedo Mask? No, the poor guy she'd accidentally kicked while chasing the thief. She hadn't gotten a good look at his face, but he had been wearing something that looked a bit like a Tuxedo Mask costume. Best to just forget that ever happened. But the question did remind her of the girl in the fertilizer sack who had tried to set her up with a friend dressed as Tuxedo Mask. She'd even passed along her number. The guy had never contacted her. Oof. Man, he has no idea what he missed out on. Annie Cakes snorted inwardly and then puffed out her chest. Whatever. I don't need a Tuxedo Mask. I'm fabulous all on my own. Hearing that there were special Happy Nest photo frames set up around the venue, Anna's spirits lifted again, and she excitedly urged everyone to lead the way. Leo and Claire followed behind the group. Claire remembered something and turned to her boyfriend. Maybe we should tell Isabella to stop working and come hang out with us. We can all have dinner together tonight. The boss's wife was, after all, kinder than the boss. Then she added, didn't you say Wyatt the punching bag was here too? Tell him to come. I need to talk to him about his contributions to the company's payroll. The boss's wife was kind, but only to a point. When it came to her childhood friend, she was ruthless. Leo waved a hand. I just asked. They're already on their way back. Isabella, feeling that it was unfair for her to have to go back to work alone, had insisted on dragging Wyatt with her. If she couldn't have fun, then her colleague couldn't either. They would work together. Outside the convention hall, in the back of a taxi, Wyatt sat clutching his still aching back, having an existential crisis. So let me get this straight. I came all the way to a convention with you today, got absolutely nothing out of it, wasted money on a ticket, owe you $100 for a costume rental, and got kicked in the back. What was the point? Isabella gave him a thumbs up. You gained my friendship. Wyatt rolled his eyes. I'm afraid if I hang out with an idiot, it might be contagious. Isabella added defiantly. And you got that pretty girl's number I got for you. Wyatt scoffed. Like I care. A bunch of girls were throwing their numbers at me earlier. Even as he said it, he subconsciously reached into his pocket. The slips of paper he'd gotten from the other girls had all fallen out when the thief had knocked him over. His pocket was empty, except for one single card. Wyatt pulled it out and glanced at it, a small smile playing on his lips. I guess you could call it fate. Deciding against throwing it away, he tucked the card back into his pocket. Might as well hold on to it. The group continued to wander through the convention hall, taking photos and having a great time. The first ever East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest didn't have a huge variety of events, but the simple joy of interacting with other fans was more than enough. They took photos, exchanged small gifts and contact information, and made new friends. Leo's group, with its abundance of beautiful women, was a natural center of attention. And with Claire and Anna, two goddesses who were on a completely different level, walking side by side, they were a breathtaking sight. One, Arwen, was ethereally beautiful, as if she didn't belong in the mortal world. The other, Sailor Moon, was a perfect blend of cute, pure, and stunningly glamorous. They drew countless admiring gazes and were the subject of thousands of photos. Other fans and cosplayers flocked to them, offering handmade gifts just for the chance to take a photo, which they could then post on their Happy Nest accounts to brag about later. Claire and Anna graciously accepted. Claire, having received so many small gifts, felt a little bad and started rummaging through her purse for something to give in return. Unfortunately, she had already given away all her handmade cookies at the Battle Through the Heavens signing. The fans, unknowingly having dodged a bullet, were disappointed but quickly reassured her. Just getting a photo with you is an honor. Don't worry about a gift. Maybe next time, meaning we could die next time. The positive interactions left a good impression on Claire, who was attending a convention for the first time. She turned to her boyfriend and suggested they come again. Next time, I'll make more cookies. The dark chef, the Life Reaper, had spoken. The rest of the group, overhearing this, felt a collective shiver run down their spines. Maybe you two should just come by yourselves next time. We'll sit that one out. They just didn't have the stomach to witness a massacre. Leo, however, as a supportive boyfriend, wasn't about to spoil his girlfriend's fun. He readily agreed. Sure, next time, we'll bring a ton of cookies and cakes to give away. Plenty of gifts for everyone. This grand gesture earned him a kiss on the cheek from Claire. Leo accepted his reward without batting an eye, his mind already calculating. I should look up which of my competitors are hosting conventions soon. A batch of cookies and cakes should be enough to take them out. At 6 in the evening, the group, tired but happy, left the convention and found a small restaurant nearby for dinner. They got a private room and sat down. The guys took charge of ordering, while the girls eagerly huddled around their phones and cameras, admiring the day's photos. Oh, this one's great. Molly, you look so cute in this one. Wow. Annie, this angle makes you look amazing. Those legs. I'm so jealous. In 2008, phone cameras didn't have great editing features. The girls were already planning to use Photoshop to perfect every little detail of their photos. The guys, having finished ordering, were less than thrilled by the conversation. Marco yawned. They're just photos. What's the big deal? Just then, the girls let out a collective gasp. Hey, this photo with the other cosplayers is framed weirdly. It's all legs, you can't see their tops. The boys, Marco included, shot up like lightning and crowded around. Suddenly, I'm not tired anymore. What are you looking at, ladies? Let us help you critique. Leo was the only one who remained seated, unmoved by the temptation. He was flanked by Anna on his left and Claire on his right. The moment he had started to get up, both women had shot him a look that had immediately planted him back in his seat. He really wanted to see, but his life was more important. Otherwise, he was pretty sure his Aragorn would be losing an arm for real. Claire, sitting next to him, was also scrolling through her phone, showing him a few photos for his opinion. What do you think of these? After receiving his unconditional praise, she nodded in satisfaction, opened the reasonable couple account on Happy Nest, and posted a 4-photo grid with the caption, "First time at a convention. Had a great time." The simple words conveyed her happy mood. Anna leaned over to look. Claire, you have a Happy Nest account too? I should make one. So many of my classmates are posting on there, it's super popular. Leo chuckled. And it's about to get even more popular. Over the next few days, the East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest continued. And as it did, Happy Nest, the event's organizer, saw its online popularity soar. The East Bay Comic Fest topic on the platform exploded with an astonishing number of participants and posts. The flood of photos of handsome and beautiful cosplayers drew even more traffic and attention. The best photos got hundreds, thousands, and even tens of thousands of likes. But the most popular photos by far were of the ethereal Arwen in her white gown, paired with the dashing Aragorn in his black tunic and silver mask. The photos of the East Bay Comic Fest Aragorn and Arwen were shared by photographers and visitors alike, with one post on Happy Nest breaking 100,000 likes. It went viral. The photos spread like wildfire across other platforms like blogs, forums, and fan sites. However, as the internet buzzed about the convention and its now famous couple, the couple themselves were preoccupied. The final exams for Berkeley's second semester had finally arrived. The East Bay Comic and Anime Fest, co-hosted by Happy Nest and the city, kicked off on Wednesday and was set to run through the weekend. But for Leo, Claire, and the others, after going all out and having a blast on the first day, it was time to put the fun aside and get back to their main duties as university students. Because by mid to late June, finals week had finally arrived at Berkeley. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 straight days of final exams. One major course after another, a relentless academic gauntlet. Even the most diligent Berkeley students, those who attended every lecture and reviewed thoroughly, were treating it like a major battle, giving it their all. As for the unlucky souls who'd spent the semester slacking off and skipping class, they could only let out anguished cries as they faced mountains of study materials. Holy shit, how am I supposed to do this? Somebody please, save me. Some, realizing they had no hope of passing on their own merit, turned to more esoteric methods. Many students, both male and female, started hanging posters of Conan the Detective in their dorm rooms. The logic? It was a pun, praying to him because he was a magnet for trouble, hoping he'd draw all the academic disaster away from them. The guys in room 520, however, saved themselves the cost of a poster. First bow, second bow, third bow. Leon, Marco, and Dylan stood in a neat, pious line, bowing deeply to the third brother of their dorm. Leo, who had been sitting at his desk reviewing his notes, was completely baffled. Seriously, why are you guys bowing to me? The trio had their reasoning down pat. Leo, aren't you basically the real-life Conan? Praying to you is way more reliable than hanging up a poster. Hey, sit up straight. Let's do this properly. The girls in 205 prayed to Bertha Sue yesterday, and they totally aced their marketing economics exam this morning. It seemed that Ms. Bertha Sue hadn't escaped this treatment either. The title of the trouble magnet couple was being exploited to its fullest potential by their respective roommates. When the couple met up for lunch, Leo brought it up. Claire was just as exasperated. I tried to talk them out of it, but Quinn and Molly were dead set on it. And even Jay joined in on the fun, saying something about how the end of science is superstition, so a little prayer couldn't hurt. She looked up at her boyfriend, and it seems like the three of them actually did really well on their exams. I think our trouble magnet couple reputation is here to stay. An idea sparked in Leo's mind. Is it really that effective? Maybe we should be taking advantage of it too. We can't let everyone else get all the benefits. Claire raised a skeptical eyebrow. Take advantage? A few moments later, in a quiet corner outside the dining hall, the couple stood facing each other. The corner of Claire's mouth twitched as she grumbled, Leo, you're going to completely ruin my image. But the handsome young man was dead serious. Quiet. First bow. Claire pressed a hand to her forehead, caught between frustration and amusement, but she complied with her boyfriend's ridiculous plan. They bowed to each other, then a second bow, and a third. The trouble magnet couple was buffing each other. A few Berkeley students passing by happened to catch the bizarre scene and recognize the campus's most famous couple. A ripple of commotion spread through them. What are they doing? Is the lethal and savage couple up to something weird again? Why are they bowing to each other after lunch? After a moment of stunned silence, the students just shook their heads and walked away, no longer surprised by anything they did. Whatever. It wasn't that strange. It was probably just another one of those Northwood customs. And, speaking of which, since they were already thinking about it, they might as well. Screw Northwood High. The 3 intense days of exams flew by in a blur. Most of their major courses for the semester were finished, with only a few general education exams left for the following week. After those were done, the freshman year for Berkeley's newest students would officially be over. A liberating, cheerful atmosphere already filled the campus. Walking through the dorm areas, you could hear celebratory shouts echoing from the buildings. Freedom! To hell with finals! Ha ha! Summer break! Get ready, here I come! In the evening, as the sky filled with the colors of sunset, Leo was waiting downstairs at dorm 16 when his girlfriend emerged. Seeing Leo waiting by the entrance, Claire walked over, carrying a pile of clothes and luggage. Leo took them from her, testing their weight. All packed. Claire nodded with a smile. Yep, I left a few essentials in the dorm, but I brought the rest. Leo grinned back. All right, let's go. Time to go home. The familiar LNS house. They crossed the front yard and pushed open the door. The chubby parrot flapped its wings in a grand welcome. King Dad, Queen Mom, King Dad, Queen Mom. Then, with practiced caution, it immediately flew to a safe distance, terrified of getting in the way of the master and mistress of the single slaughterhouse. The lesson from last time, when it had been swatted away for blocking their path, was still fresh in its mind. Inside, The couple moved together with practiced ease, falling into a familiar, intimate embrace. But before their lips could meet, they both sensed something wasn't quite right. They turned their heads in unison. On the living room sofa, the long-absent Mr. Chien was cracking sunflower seeds, waving a casual hand at them. "Yo, you're back." They hadn't been back to the LNS house for a few days, and the job of looking after Reasonable had, as always, fallen to him. He had just dropped the parrot off. Being caught in such an intimate moment by Mr. Chien made the young couple a little embarrassed. "Mr. Chien," he, however, was completely unfazed, getting up with a cheerful grin. "Don't mind me. I just brought Reasonable back. I'm leaving now. You two carry on, carry on." Then, with the steady, unhurried gait of a man overflowing with wealth, he took his happy leave. His daily dose of vicarious romance was complete. It was time to return to the dull, tedious life of collecting rent and managing his shops. They watched him go and close the door. Once again, only the master and mistress of the single slaughterhouse remained. The master looked at the mistress and humbly requested, "Shall we continue?" The mistress raised a delicate eyebrow and graciously consented. "Continue." A few moments later, in the master bedroom on the second floor of the LNS house, the friendship bed once again bore witness to an intense session of friendly interaction. By the time the sky had completely darkened, the girl on the bed, drenched in a light sweat, lay limply in her boyfriend's arms, her eyes lazy and hazy. "Leo, you didn't eat, did you?" "Huh." Suddenly feeling his performance had been criticized, the master of the house shot upright. "Ms. Bertha Sue, you are asking for it." Like a wolf, he pounced on his girlfriend again. A startled cry escaped her lips. Wait a second. You idiot, I wasn't talking about you. I meant we haven't had dinner yet. MMPH. She didn't have time to finish her explanation before her lips were captured once more. That night, the battle was rejoined. Sunday morning, as the bright sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the master and mistress of the LNS house were already seated at the dining table, enjoying breakfast. It was a simple meal of plain oatmeal, a few small side dishes, and Chef Sue's one and only designated masterpiece, fried eggs. The couple ate with relish. Claire watched her boyfriend across the table eating his eggs, her eyes filled with anticipation. "How is it?" Leo gave her a thumbs up as he ate, his praise muffled but enthusiastic. "Amazing. You're getting better and better." The ones she made for his birthday were a solid 6. 5 out of 10. These were at least a 6. 501. Monumental progress. Girlfriends were made to be praised. Praise her a few hundred more times, and even the darkest of culinary talents could ascend to master chef status. Chef Sue was deeply satisfied. She used her chopsticks to place another fried egg in her boyfriend's bowl. "Then eat up. There's more where that came from." Leo paused. He glanced at the new egg in his bowl. Then his eyes drifted to the platter on the table, where a mountain of fried eggs was stacked high. "Leo, all right," he agreed verbally, lowering his head to hide the slight tremor in his eyes. Now that she had a signature dish, it seemed Ms. Bertha Sue had become addicted to making fried eggs. As good as they were, a person could only eat so many in one sitting, but he didn't want to crush Chef Sue's enthusiasm. He had no choice. He'd have to call Mr. Chien for backup later. After breakfast, the couple divided the labor. Leo took the dishes to the kitchen to wash, while Claire wiped down the dining table. Her task was simple and quickly finished. She then strolled casually toward the kitchen to check on her boyfriend's progress. As she reached the doorway, the sound of running water met her ears. Looking inside, she saw Leo standing at the sink, his head lowered as he washed the dishes, his movements skillful and methodical. Sunlight poured in through the kitchen window, casting a soft glow around him and illuminating his handsome profile. He looked so relaxed and at ease, softly humming a tune that matched the rhythm of the running water. It created an inexplicable sense of peace and tranquility. Leaning against the doorframe, Claire watched, mesmerized. Her heart overflowed with warmth and contentment. It was a sight she would never tire of. Just then, Leo sensed her gaze and turned his head. Seeing his girlfriend staring at him, eyes unblinking, he couldn't help but smile. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Claire snapped out of her trance and tilted her head. "No reason. I was just thinking about what we should do today." Leo raised an eyebrow, thought for a moment, and suggested, "How about we invite the crew over? Get the place lively." This was their usual weekend routine. The single slaughterhouse had long since become the go-to hangout spot for both their dorms. The master and mistress were always happy to host. But today, for some reason, the mistress seemed reluctant. She shook her head. "No, She padded over in her slippers, came up behind her boyfriend, and wrapped her arms around his waist, burying her head in his shoulder. Her voice was slightly muffled. I don't want anyone else here today. Her tone held a hint of girlish coquettishness that only appeared when they were alone. Leo was slightly taken aback, then a smile spread across his face. Okay, then today, it's just the two of us. How to spend a day as just the two of them. For a couple that had been together for over half a year, they didn't need grand surprises or elaborate activities. Just an ordinary, simple day. Spending it together. That was the best it could be. After finishing the dishes, a glance at the fridge revealed they were low on groceries. Leo decided to go out for some shopping. A new community market had just opened near their neighborhood, a perfect place to check out. Naturally, Claire wanted to go with him. In her entire reborn life, the great Ms. Sterling had, at most, shopped at a supermarket. She had never been to a noisy, bustling place like a real market. Today, she was intrigued and wanted to experience it with her boyfriend. She was practically giddy with excitement before they even left. She spent ages upstairs, trying on different outfits in front of the mirror. Finally, after Leo called up a few times that if they left any later, all the good produce would be gone, she made her choice and came down. With a light step, she descended the stairs. She wore a moon-white silk blouse, a delicate ribbon tied at the collar. A deep blue, A-line skirt swayed gently, revealing a pair of slender, fair calves. On her feet were a pair of exquisite little black leather shoes. She wore a wide-brimmed sun hat and had a small, woven basket hooked over her arm. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, Claire did a little twirl in front of her boyfriend, then looked up at him, seeking his approval. Well, Leo couldn't help but laugh. Elegant, but a little too elegant. You don't look like you're going to the market. You look like you're going to acquire the market. Claire blinked, looking down at her outfit, and turned to go back upstairs. Then I'll go change. Before she could finish, Leo quickly pulled her toward the door. No, it's fine, this is great. Let's go, or we'll miss the bus. Outside, the Maybach sat in the front yard. The sun glinted off its elegant, sweeping curves. But considering they were just going to the market, driving a Maybach to buy vegetables felt a bit excessive. So, the couple decided to just take the bus, leaving the poor Maybach to sit alone and melancholy in the yard. The Maybach. Oh, Tieto, it was starting to feel neglected. The new market wasn't far from their neighborhood, just one stop on a bus. They arrived quickly. Standing at the entrance, Claire was captivated by the scene before her. A brilliantly lit, bustling crowd of people. It's so lively. Rows upon rows of stalls, steam rising under the lights, fragrant smoke curling into the air. The sounds of vendors hawking their wares, customers haggling over prices, mixed with the splashing of fish in their tanks, created a vibrant, chaotic symphony. The air was thick with the lively, bustling energy of everyday life. Leo turned to his girlfriend and asked with a smile, "What do you think?" Claire's eyes lit up. "I love it. Let's go look around." Hand in hand, they walked into the market, weaving through the stream of people. They passed stall after stall, looking at the dazzling arrays of vegetables, the cuts of meat, the fresh seafood in tanks and cages, a rich and overwhelming feast for the eyes. Listening to the calls of vendors and the back and forth of haggling all around them, every sight and sound was a novel experience for Claire. Her eyes darted everywhere, trying to take it all in. Leo led his suddenly curious girlfriend to a few meat and seafood stalls, buying some pork, fish, and shrimp. He was a natural at haggling with the vendors. Watching her boyfriend go back and forth with a vendor, talking a mile a minute until the owner grumbled but still gave him a discount of $3.65, Claire stared at Leo in utter shock. Her inner cartoon avatar, which hadn't made an appearance in a while, gaped its cute little mouth into an O. My Leo. He has this skill too. For the first time, she found her little boyfriend more charming than ever before. After haggling with the vendor and paying for the bag of pork, Leo turned to his girlfriend. He was startled by what he saw. Ms. Bertha Sue was staring at him, her eyes shining. It was the same look she'd had in the bedroom last night. Leo. A question mark popped over his head. Why are you looking at me like that? Claire blinked. No reason. I just suddenly think you're really handsome. Leo was stunned, then found it hilarious. I'm handsome just for buying some groceries and haggling? To his surprise, Claire nodded emphatically. Handsome. Hearing such unreserved praise from his girlfriend for once, Leo felt a little swell of pride. That's nothing. Watch this. I could be even handsomer. He took her hand and marched them to the next stall. Boss, how much for the daikon radishes? Too expensive. Give me 50% off. His tone was heroic, his presence commanding. The vegetable vendor looked at him like he was insane. I haven't even told you the price yet. What the hell is too expensive? They went from stall to stall, buying and haggling. With his girlfriend's undisguised admiration and even a hint of worshipful awe at his side, Leo felt a surge of fighting spirit. Even grocery shopping had become an epic battle. In no time, they had bought a pile of meat and vegetables, their hands nearly full. Then he suddenly realized, hey, why do we buy 2 bags of potatoes? He had been so focused on haggling that he hadn't noticed they'd bought the same thing twice. Waste not, want not. Leo was about to take the extra bag back to the vendor for a refund, but they still needed to buy ribs, and that stall was in a different direction. Claire offered a suggestion. You go return those. I'll buy the ribs. Leo looked at his girlfriend, a little surprised. You'll go by yourself? Having just witnessed her boyfriend's haggling prowess, Claire was eager to try it herself. Yeah, I want to give it a shot. Leo thought about it, and decided that letting his girlfriend experience the art of the haggle wouldn't be a bad thing. He nodded readily. Okay, let's meet at the main entrance later. So they split up. Claire followed the path they'd taken earlier and found the butcher's stall. The butcher, a large man with a commanding presence, was chopping meat with powerful, rhythmic thuds. She took a deep breath. She was the future CEO of Sterling Holdings, a veteran of the corporate world. A mere market stall was nothing. She stepped forward, the sound of her footsteps catching the butcher's attention. Claire looked up at him, her gaze suddenly sharp, radiating the same formidable aura she projected when negotiating billion-dollar deals. Ribs, name your price. The burly butcher was first struck by the young woman's beauty, then by her words. He instinctively asked, how much do you want? President Sue froze for a split second. How much? What was a lot? What was a little? Her inexperienced brain spun rapidly, but her expression remained cool and composed. She quickly found an answer. Enough for 2. Not a hint of hesitation. A masterful deflection. Her inner cartoon avatar wanted to give her a standing ovation. The phoenix of the business world, a legend in her own right. The butcher nodded in understanding, expertly pulling a rack of ribs onto his block and bringing his cleaver down with a series of sharp thuds. He weighed the portion, bagged it, and tossed it onto the counter. 3 pounds, 2 ounces. 15 a pound. Comes out to 48. I'll knock off $3 for you, little lady. 45. Without thinking, she replied. Too expensive. The butcher paused. Then what's your price? It was Claire's turn to be stumped again. The classic question returned. What was too much? What was too little? For a rare moment, President Sue's composure faltered. Watching her boyfriend haggle had seemed so effortless, but doing it herself, she realized it wasn't so easy. In the end, she returned with the ribs. When they met at the entrance, Leo was surprised to see she'd successfully bought a bag. He was even more surprised when he heard the price. That cheap? The owner let you haggle? Claire's cheeks flushed slightly, but she maintained a calm and collected demeanor and nodded. A piece of cake. The truth was, President Sue had stood in front of the stall in a daze for a long time, unsure where to even begin haggling. It was the butcher who, out of the kindness of his heart and seeing how pretty she was, had simply given her the at-cost price. It had nothing to do with her negotiating skills. It was a victory won purely by appearance. The grocery shopping was done, but Claire was not satisfied. Back at the house, Leo took the ingredients to the kitchen. Sitting on the living room sofa, Ms. Sterling frowned, deep in thought. As the future daughter-in-law of the Wallace family, she couldn't fall short in any aspect. How could she not know how to haggle? She immediately took out her phone and sent a message to the female assistant she'd hired from the Sterling Holdings front desk. Look into it. The market prices for all common vegetables and meats in the East Bay area. Compile a report for me. The assistant replied promptly. Understood, but a moment later, another message came through, bubbling with excitement. Ms. Sterling, are you planning an acquisition of one of the city's market networks? Claire. Looking at the message from her subordinate, she couldn't help but feel a little helpless. It seemed her desire to be a competent homemaker didn't quite align with the image others had of her. She had a long way to go. Still, as she thought this, her gaze drifted toward the kitchen. She watched her boyfriend's skillful and busy figure, and a small smile graced her lips. It wasn't like she absolutely had to be a domestic goddess. After all, she already had a house husband. She could be the breadwinner, the one who worked outside the home, while he managed the domestic affairs. That didn't sound too bad, did it? At noon, Leo prepared a lavish lunch of 4 dishes and a soup. The couple enjoyed a delicious meal. Ms. Bertha Sue ate with gusto, showering Chef Leo with praise, and then casually mentioned, maybe after graduation, you should just be a full-time house husband. I'll put you on the payroll. spoken with the magnanimity of the future CEO of Sterling Holdings. Leo laughed. That won't work. Once my startup takes off and the company gets big, you might not be able to afford my salary. Can't afford it. Claire tilted her head, looking at her boyfriend. Mr. Hammer, do you have some misunderstanding about the financial power of Sterling Holdings? Leo placed a piece of rib in her bowl, speaking with mock seriousness. Ms. Bertha Sue, you might be underestimating your boyfriend's entrepreneurial abilities. She pouted slightly, not knowing about his connection to Happy Nest. She just assumed that even if his battle through the heavens browser game was successful, it would be a modest venture. But she didn't want to dampen his entrepreneurial spirit. Her eyes softened, and she looked at him with a pitiable expression. But I only want to eat the food you make. Only you can. Fill me up. Leo paused, rubbing his chin, his expression suspicious. Are you making a double entendre here? Claire froze. Then she blushed with indignation. Under the table, she stomped her foot on his. In your dreams. You pervert. After lunch, Leo went to the kitchen to cut up some fruit. When he came out with the platter, he saw that his girlfriend was already sitting at the clear dining table, studying. Although most of their major exams were over, there were still 2 or 3 general education finals left. Claire sat at the table, head down, pen flying across her notebook as she organized her review materials. The soft scratch of pen on paper filled the air. Her silky black hair was loose, falling over one shoulder. It partially blocked her view of the textbook, and she casually pushed it aside before returning to her work. Watching her, a smile spread across Leo's face. If, for Claire, the sight of her boyfriend busying himself in the kitchen was endlessly captivating, then for Leo, watching his girlfriend focused on her studies was a scene he could always appreciate. She seemed less aloof and more serene, gentle, and intellectually beautiful. Hearing his footsteps, Claire looked up and saw him. She waved him over. Come on, study with me. On their days off, the couple's time together wasn't just filled with sweet nothings. There were also moments like this where they motivated each other to study. After all, people weren't animals. You couldn't just exhaust the potential of the friendship bed 24 hours a day. The friendship bed also required sustainable development. Leo nodded eagerly, placing the fruit platter on the table. He went to the living room, pulled his textbooks and notes from his backpack, and came back. He was about to habitually sit across from her when Claire stopped him. She pulled out the chair beside her and patted the seat. Sit next to me. The afternoon sun cast a gentle glow over the LNS house, and the air was quiet. At the dining table, the master and mistress of the single slaughterhouse sat side by side, each engrossed in their own review materials. The scene was so familiar it felt like they had been transported back more than a year, to their senior year of high school. Back when they were just desk mates. Reasonable desk mates on the surface. But in reality, a certain aloof campus queen had already been harboring ulterior motives. After taking notes for a while, Claire paused and glanced at Leo. His profile came into view. His soft, fluffy black hair partially covered his eyebrows, and his bangs hung lazily over his forehead, but they couldn't hide his handsome face or his increasingly defined features. He looked more mature than he had in high school, but there was still a hint of the charming immaturity of a 19-year-old boy. Claire couldn't suppress a smile. Even as the formidable former CEO of Sterling Holdings, she felt an unabashed, childish glee welling up inside her. Claire Sterling, oh, Claire Sterling, you have truly feasted well in this life. Once those thoughts started, her focus on studying vanished. She rested her chin on her hand, her body half-turned as she unabashedly admired her boyfriend's profile. She crossed her legs, and under the table, her slipper dangled from her foot, bouncing cheerfully, betraying her joyful mood. Leo finally noticed her stare and turned his head, meeting her gaze. He was puzzled. Aren't we supposed to be studying? Are you done already? Claire snapped back to reality and blinked. Not yet. I ran into a question on the English practice test I don't get. Help me. This was Leo's old turf. He'd been a tutor in his past life. He immediately perked up and rolled up his sleeves. All right, which one? Let me see. Claire pulled a test paper over and pointed randomly. This one. Leo leaned in for a look, then turned to his girlfriend, his expression deadpan. That's the box for your student ID number. Claire glanced at it, feigning realization, then replied without a hint of a blush. Oh, pointed to the wrong one. Let me find another. Leo was suspicious. I feel like I've seen this move before. She met his gaze, her eyes wide and innocent. Really? Just a coincidence. Half convinced, Leo still leaned over the test and began patiently explaining the question to his girlfriend. With his professional experience from his past life, breaking down a university-level English question was second nature. He spoke with calm confidence, and his student, Claire, would occasionally murmur in understanding, but the look in her eyes as she watched him grew brighter and brighter. When Leo finished his thorough explanation, he took a sip of water, smacked his lips with satisfaction, and turned to his student. "Did you get it?" Claire nodded and offered her unreserved praise. You're so handsome when you explain things." Leo, he deadpanned, "Ms. Bertha Sue, please pay attention in class. No lusting after the teacher's good looks. If you don't study properly, you'll fail next week's exam." But the threat had no effect on her. Claire's lips curled into a gentle smile. "Mr. Hammer, you worry too much. It's just university English. I took a practice exam for the advanced proficiency test a while back and got a 98. My professor already gave me enough for the semester, so next week's final is just a formality." Leo, handsome boy, is stunned. JPG, in disbelief, he took the test paper and looked it over. She had indeed gotten nearly every question right. He turned back to his girlfriend, bewildered. "Then why did you ask me for help?" Claire looked at him innocently. "Because I like listening to you explain things. You're especially handsome when you're focused on teaching." Leo's vanity flared up slightly. "Even if you flatter me like that, I won't care." But a second later, he froze. The steel straight man, across 2 lifetimes, finally put 2 and 2 together. He remembered high school. "Wait a second. So back in senior year, when you asked me for help with questions, you weren't looking at the paper, you were just staring at my face. That was on purpose too." The master schemer's true intentions were never about the wine. It was all for the beauty of Mr. Hammer himself. Her old secrets exposed, the former ice queen of Northwood High remained perfectly composed and admitted it freely. "That's right." She paused, a smirk playing on her lips. "But back then, I wasn't looking at your face. I was looking at your mouth." Leo was dumbfounded. In the next moment, a faint, sweet scent washed over him. His girlfriend leaned in close, her clear, bright eyes fixed on his. Her lips parted. Her warm breath tickled his ear. "I'll tell you a secret. Back then, when you were explaining problems to me, I just wanted to kiss you." The bombshell dropped so casually. Before Leo's mind could even process it, Claire's lips were on his, soft and lingering. When they finally broke apart, Claire leaned back, a triumphant glint in her eyes. "Now, I can kiss you whenever I want." Both of them were top students. They finished their afternoon review session with plenty of time to spare. With nothing else pressing to do, the couple sat leisurely on the living room rug. Leo brought out the set of toy car models that Ms. Bertha Sue had given him for his birthday. He arranged all the little cars in neat rows, completely engrossed. Toy cars might be too childish for an elementary schooler and a bit silly for a university student. But for a single man from a past life who was mentally in his 30s, it was just right. Besides, who said these were just ordinary toy cars? These were toy cars from his girlfriend. Ahem, anyway. Leo was having a blast, and Claire watched him with a fond smile. She didn't think Mr. Hammer was being childish. She just thought her boyfriend was easy to please. A few little cars were enough to make him this happy. If she were to get him a few real ones, the little fool would probably explode with joy. Speaking of which, Charles Sterling had a few classic cars from the last century collecting dust in the garage of their East Bay estate. She should have Mr. Joe bring them over sometime. While Leo played with his cars, Claire wasn't idle either. She brought out a jigsaw puzzle, a gift from her roommates on her last birthday. She spread the pieces out on the rug, ready to give it a try. This was something Reasonable was also very interested in. He flapped out of his cage, eager to help. This piece, over there, put it there." The chubby parrot had a surprising talent for puzzles. It accurately picked out pieces and tossed them to its mistress, even directing her where to put them. But it didn't get any praise. Instead, it was swatted away. Parrots aren't allowed to play with puzzles. This was an activity meant for a couple to do together. What was a dumb bird doing butting in? It had no sense of the occasion. Claire turned to her boyfriend, her voice laced with a playful whine. "Help me with the puzzle." "I don't know how." When his girlfriend asked for help, it was his duty to answer. Leo immediately abandoned his cars and came over. "I know how. Here, let me show you." Doing a puzzle together is a classic couples activity. One searches, the other finds. One passes a piece, the other places it. Working together, putting their minds and efforts toward a common goal, completing a puzzle brings a unique sense of satisfaction. Unfortunately, the master and mistress of the single slaughterhouse, while academic geniuses, were not exactly puzzle masters. The two of them huddled together, studying the hundreds of pieces, trying different combinations for a long time. They hadn't even managed to complete a quarter of the border. Claire sat up straight, frowning at her boyfriend. Leo, didn't you say you knew how to do this? He answered confidently. I really do. Don't worry, let me try again. He studied the picture on the box while rummaging through the pile of pieces with one hand. This one should be a corner piece, smooth on two sides, and it felt nice, soft, and tender. Leo. The girl's cool voice sounded again. Without looking up, he continued to study the picture, his hands still exploring. What's wrong? Her voice took on a dangerous edge. You're touching my foot. Leo froze and instinctively looked down at his right hand. At some point, he had taken hold of his girlfriend's delicate foot, and his mischievous hand was now shamelessly playing with her toes. He feigned surprise. Oh, my mistake, my mistake. I was wondering why it felt so strange. He explained without a hint of a blush, giving her foot another 2 squeezes for good measure. The next second, his butt was kicked by his girlfriend. Focus on the puzzle. In the end, the puzzle was not completed. But when a couple does a puzzle, finishing it isn't the point. As long as the sweet moments are there, that's enough. The rest could be left to their chubby parrot to finish. The long-suffering Reasonable was finally remembered by his mistress. She called him over, and the lone bird diligently set to work on the hundreds of puzzle pieces. The couple, meanwhile, settled comfortably back on the sofa, scrolling through their phones. Claire, who was browsing online, suddenly let out a small "oh." Our account has a lot more followers now. Leo leaned over. Really? Let me see. His gaze fell on his girlfriend's phone screen, and he was surprised too. Whoa, you're right. Their new joint account, the Reasonable couple, had previously only been followed by their roommates. But now, the follower count had climbed to just over 500, all of them new from the past few days. The latest post was the 4-photo grid of them at the Comic and Anime Fest as Aragorn and Arwen. Even though they hadn't used the hashtag East Bay Comic Fest tag, they had over 400 likes. The comments section below had more than 200 comments. Leo looked closely and pointed at some of them. These are all from our school. It was easy to tell. The content of those comments was all pretty much the same. WTF? How did I end up here? The Lethal and Savage couple has a joint account. Where's the squad? State the password. Screw Northwood High. Screw Northwood High. Below there were another 60 or 70 impassioned responses. It seemed that people who followed their individual accounts had been recommended this new Reasonable couple account. Claire nodded, not particularly bothered by their schoolmates. The others seemed to be from the festival. When they were at the fest, other visitors and cosplayers had asked for photos and to connect online, and they had casually mentioned their joint Happy Nest account. The other comments were a flurry of, OMG, brother is so handsome. Sister is so beautiful. There were also private messages from people introducing themselves as someone they'd met at the fest. Claire was puzzled. I don't remember telling that many people our account name. How do we get over 300 new followers? Leo scanned the comments again and found a few key ones. Is this the account of the actual Arwen from the fest? Sister is so beautiful. We found you for the Comic Fest topic page. Ah, I finally found you. He realized what had happened. Someone else must have posted a photo of us on the festival's topic page. When people asked who we were, they probably promoted our account for us. As he spoke, the account gained 2 more followers. Claire was surprised. Was our cosplay really that popular? She typed East Bay Comic Fest into the Happiness search bar and entered the topic page. Among the most popular posts, a candid photo of Aragorn and Arwen stood out, catching her eye immediately. The 100,000 plus likes and over 8,000 comments below it shocked even Claire. It's that popular? Leo was also taken aback, subconsciously rubbing his chin. Are we about to become influencers? The couple looked at each other, and a smile spread across both their faces. Causing a little trouble once in a while, it feels pretty good. Some people felt pretty good. Others felt like their world was falling apart. As the East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest successfully concluded, even making the official news, and as photos of a certain Aragorn and Arwen cosplaying couple went viral on Happy Nest, it was inevitable that even an old-fashioned person who rarely went online might accidentally see it. For instance, a certain chairman of Sterling Holdings who, on a whim, decided to try following his precious daughter's account on Happy Nest again. For some reason, it still didn't work. But he idly clicked on the platform's topic pages, and then he saw it. The photo pinned at the very top, East Bay Comic Fest, stunning Aragorn and Arwen cosplay shot. In the photo, Arwen, in her white dress, was ethereally beautiful, her charm otherworldly. Aragorn, his face covered by a silver mask, 2 streaks of white hair dancing at his brow, stood with a casual grace. From behind the mask, his eyes were filled with a deep, tender affection as he gazed at Arwen. Charles Sterling. Charles Sterling. Charles Sterling. Shattered. It was the sound of a heart breaking. It was the sound of sanity snapping. A new week began. The first ever East Bay University Comic and Anime Fest, which had lasted for 5 full days, came to a successful close. The number of visitors, ticket revenue, and the resulting economic boost to surrounding businesses, as well as the buzz it generated online, all far exceeded original expectations. It was a feather in the cap for the city of East Bay. The director of the Cultural Affairs Bureau was even praised by name in a meeting, leaving him ecstatic. In turn, Deputy Director Shin Sin-ian personally led a delegation to the Happy Nest headquarters on Wanning Road, presenting them with 2 commemorative plaques. Outstanding Cultural Enterprise of East Bay. Outstanding Partner of the East Bay Cultural Affairs Bureau. With this, Happy Nest had officially earned its place in the city's good graces. But for Happy Nest, the benefits didn't stop there. Although the festival was over, the online hype continued to reach new heights. Visitors, still buzzing with excitement, logged on to Happy Nest to register accounts and post their thoughts and experiences. The East Bay Comic Fest topic page was flooded with all sorts of photos. The popularity soared. Naturally, the photos of beautiful female cosplayers attracted the most attention from the general online public. The stunning shots of a certain Aragorn and Arwen couple barely need mentioning. With over 100,000 likes, they shot straight to the top. But aside from this perfectly matched pair, there were other high-quality female cosplayers who captured the hearts of netizens. For instance, a certain young woman who cosplayed as Sailor Moon. The photos she posted earned a torrent of praise and admiration, garnering over 70,000 likes and securing a spot in the top 5 of the festival's topic page. In the top 10 cosplayers of the Fest competition, she came in second only to her own aloof and stunning sister-in-law, Arwen. It's worth mentioning here that to encourage user participation, Happy Nest had offered prizes for the top 10 most popular posts and the publicly voted top 10 cosplayers. The prizes included cash and in-game items, such as the coveted King-grade fertilizer for Garden Grab. The news left a certain Isabella Zhao stunned. When she came to her senses, she was so filled with regret she could have rolled on the floor in agony. If she had known, she would have spent more money to rent a beautiful cosplay outfit and gone to the festival looking gorgeous. Why on earth did she wear a fertilizer bag? The success of the festival led to a massive surge in traffic for Happy Nest. This traffic, skillfully guided by the platform, was continuously converted into new registered users. Netizens who were using Happy Nest for the first time initially signed up just to see photos of pretty cosplayers. But they were soon captivated by the platform's various minigames. Garden Grab, Brainiac Blitz, and the name Compatibility Test once again worked their magic. And the newly launched Parking Wars game created yet another wave of excitement. Another viral sensation. 85 million, 90 million, 95 million. On Tuesday, in late June, the total number of registered users on Happy Nest broke the 100 million mark, sending shockwaves through the entire domestic internet. The interview piece, The Twin Stars of Happy Nest, was once again featured in major business, news, and tech magazines across the country. As the company's CEO, David Chang's face was plastered on covers and front pages everywhere. Leo got the news on Wednesday afternoon, just after finishing his last final exam of the semester, University English. The moment he walked out of the exam hall, David Chung called him. Besides sharing the good news, he had another, more important message. Carlson wants to meet you. Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock. Leo took a car from the old Berkeley campus to the city center, arriving in front of the Nexus Group's headquarters in the CBD. He looked up at the towering, magnificent new office building. He felt no nervousness or apprehension. He just subconsciously tried to compare whether the Nexus headquarters or the Sterling Holdings building was taller. He couldn't come to a conclusion. His phone vibrated again. It was a text from his girlfriend, asking when he would be home tonight. Leo smiled and typed a reply. Got something to do, we'll be back later. Claire texted back. What is it? Leo's lips curled into a smirk as he typed. Scamming someone out of their money. There was a slight pause before another message popped up. Go for it. Scam a lot. No questions asked. Just unconditional support. With a girlfriend like this, how could his career not flourish? Looking at the simple words on his screen, Leo grinned. He put his phone away and walked toward the entrance of the Nexus headquarters. Inside the lobby, a beautiful receptionist was already waiting to greet him. She led him to a private elevator, which went straight to the top floor. He walked down a long corridor to the CEO's office. Pushing the door open, he saw David Chung inside, who stood up with a cheerful smile. You're here. Let me introduce you. My old boss, the big boss of Nexus. Next to David, a man with a commanding presence and imposing aura stood up. In a rare gesture, He walked forward, a smile on his face as he extended a hand to Leo. I've heard so much about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet Carl Carlson from Nexus. Leo looked at the chairman of the Nexus Group, meeting his wise, profound gaze that seemed to see through everything. He smiled back and shook the man's hand with equal composure. At this level, there was no need for aliases or clever tricks. Leo Wallace from Happy Nest. Mr. Carlson, a pleasure. Aside from the three men in the room, no one in the future would ever know what was said in the CEO's office of the Nexus headquarters that night. All people knew was that after that night, the Weibo project within the Nexus Group was officially launched. The original project strategy was completely overturned, and a new plan was put into action. A year later, in 2009, when Nexus Weibo took the Chinese internet by storm, everyone was stunned. They showered praise and admiration on its helmsman, Nexus chairman Carl Carlson. In an interview, the chairman simply shook his head and said cryptically, the credit for that, 70% of it belongs to someone else. But that's a story for another time. Setting aside the distant, turbulent future of the internet, for Leo, the conversation that night yielded immediate, tangible benefits. Leaving the Nexus headquarters and sitting in a taxi on his way home, he thought about the Weibo.com domain he had successfully sold and the $2 million that would soon be in his account. He was in such a good mood that he started humming softly by the window. Just a short while ago, he had been feeling short on cash. Not anymore. $2 million. In 2008, that was the kind of money where you didn't have to lick the lid of the yogurt cup, where you could order guacamole at Chipotle without flinching, where you could get the large popcorn at the movies. The more he thought about it, the more refreshed he felt. When he got home and walked through the front door of the LNS house, he was practically bursting with pride. Honey, I'm ordering pizza tonight, with extra toppings. Claire emerged from the inner room, looking at her boyfriend's triumphant expression with a hint of surprise. You got the money? He waved his hand magnanimously. Big money. The kind of big money you can't even imagine. Can't imagine? The future heir of Sterling Holdings tilted her head and thought seriously for a moment. $100 billion. Leo, my apologies, I was being rude. He had asked the wrong person. For Ms. Bertha Sue, anything less than 8 figures probably didn't even qualify as big money. Damn rich people. After Thursday, all the coursework and exams for the semester at Berkeley were finally over. Summer vacation was just around the corner. Across campus, most students were joyfully packing their bags, ready to leave their dorms and head home for 2 months of glorious freedom. Before leaving, they didn't forget to wave goodbye to their roommates and classmates. Come visit me back home sometime. Food and drinks on me. No time? You have to hang out with your girlfriend? Dude, you're the worst. All right, see you next semester. The air was filled with a light and cheerful atmosphere. The friends from room 205 and room 520 had also packed their bags, but they were in no hurry to head their separate ways. Although vacation was about to start, they had already planned to take one last trip together while everyone was still around. They had been struggling to decide on a destination, but a familiar phone call from hundreds of miles away made the decision for them instantly. Let's go to Spirit Springs Mountain. The call was from Sun E., the teacher at the Hope School in Pending Village on Spirit Springs Mountain. Part of the call was to share good news. In the months since the disastrous flash flood, the village had been rebuilt through the combined efforts of the government and the local villagers. The Hope School, which had been washed away, had also been rebuilt thanks to public donations and government funding after its story was reported in the news. It was now a brand new building, even equipped with a student dormitory. From now on, the children who once had to trek for miles to get to school would be spared much of that hardship. They could now eat, sleep, and study without worry. The other reason for Sun Yi's call was to cordially invite Leo, Claire, and the others to visit again. On the other end of the line, the man who had once moved an entire province with his dedication laughed heartily. Pending Village and the Hope School are completely different now. Even a mountain road has been repaired. It's a much easier drive. You'll see when you get here. You should come soon. The kids really miss you all. Leo didn't immediately agree, just smiled and said he would discuss it with the others. But in the next second, the familiar voice of the old village chief came through the phone. Who are you talking to? Teacher's son. What? Little brother Leo? Then, the chief's booming, energetic voice filled the line. Little brother, come visit us. The village is all rebuilt. Brand new, shiny houses. I guarantee it'll be more comfortable than last time. And the hot springs. The heavens blessed us with a few new ones, and I've saved them specially for you and little Sue. The keyword had been spoken. The second Leo hung up the phone, he turned to his girlfriend sitting on the sofa and declared without a moment's hesitation, We're going. We're going to Spirit Springs Mountain. What hot springs? We're not going for the hot springs. We just really miss the village chief and the kids at the Hope School. Marco, Leon, and Dylan from room 520 declared righteously after hearing the news from Leo. They stood tall and proud, faces straight, under the suspicious gazes of the girls. The moment the girls reluctantly believed them, the trio turned around and high-fived each other in celebration. Let's go, let's go. Hot springs, here we come. Get in the car, get in the car. They set out on Saturday morning. The group included the usual crew from the 2 dorms, plus 2 lovely additions, Lily, Lou, and Anna. Lily had been busy lately and hadn't been around much, but now that finals were over, she was happy to join the group activity. Anna was supposed to have an internship, but the moment she heard about the trip, she dropped everything and raced over from the city. You guys had fun without me last time. I'm definitely coming this time. That brought the total to 10 people. Last time, they had only 2 cars, which would be too crowded now. Fortunately, most of the girls were from wealthy families. Molly brought her Beetle, easily solving the problem. But now they had 10 people and 3 cars. Molly's Beetle, Quinn's BMW, and the lethal and savage couple's Maybach. Marco and Dylan were quick on the uptake, immediately sidling up to Leon and Molly. We're riding with Leon and Molly. Jade adjusted her glasses. She was already standing next to the Maybach. I haven't ridden in this one before. I'll try the Maybach this time. That left the little BMW still unclaimed. Quinn looked around. So, the rest of you are with me? Annie cakes. Remember our bumper car adventure last time? Let's do it again today. Anna shuddered. In a flash, she was clutching Reasonable and standing next to her brother and sister-in-law. And next time. Definitely next time. Only Lily Lou was out of the loop, looking around in confusion. Why is no one riding in the BMW? It's a nice car. Quinn's face lit up. See? Lily gets it. Come on. We share a name. We should ride together. I'll show you my driving skills. She chattered on, warmly taking Lily's hand and leading her to the BMW. Lily was still bewildered as she was pushed into the car. Hey, wait. Why is everyone looking at me so strangely? The sky was a brilliant blue. The sun was shining brightly, and the open road made everyone's mood lighter and happier. Aside from a few shocked and panicked screams from certain white BMW, followed by a hasty switch of drivers, the journey was, on the whole, a joyous one. At noon, the group arrived at Spirit Springs Town at the foot of the mountain. After a short break and a quick hello to Ergene Chien, they had lunch at his local restaurant. After the meal, they got back in their cars and headed straight for Spirit Springs Mountain. The mountain had indeed changed a lot since the flood. Last time, they had to park at the base and take diesel trikes up. This time, they saw that the road up the mountain had been widened to twice its original size. Though it wasn't a proper paved road, the surface had been packed down and smoothed out, no longer the rocky, bumpy path it once was. At least now, it was passable for cars. Even so, as they slowly drove up the winding slope, Anna, who was peering out the window of the Maybach, couldn't help but be amazed. This is what it looks like after it's been smoothed out? What was it like before? She turned to Leo and Claire in the front seats, her face a picture of disbelief. Bro, sis-in-law, how on earth did you two drive a Maybach up and down this thing in the middle of flash flood? Just as she asked, the parrot in her lap puffed out its chest and flapped its wings proudly. Me. It was me. Leo and Claire exchanged a glance. Leo smiled. He's not wrong. It was mostly thanks to Reasonable. Claire thought for a moment and added, and the Maybach. The engine of the car beneath them rumbled, as if in agreement. The Maybach. Upright arrow GO. The mountain road was indeed much better. The group drove up the gentle slope and soon saw a wide, flat clearing ahead, dotted with brand-new, gleaming brick houses. This was the rebuilt Pending Village. Apparently, after the original village site on the mountaintop was destroyed by the flood, the rushing water had carved out this flat area on the mountainside, which turned out to be the perfect spot for rebuilding. It also saved them some of the arduous journey up and down the mountain, a silver lining to the disaster. The old village chief was sitting in a lounge chair in the clearing, leisurely smoking his pipe. Hearing the cars, he glanced over lazily. When he saw the familiar black Maybach leading the way, his eyes lit up, and he sprang to his feet. Whoa, little brother Leo. His booming voice echoed through half the village. Villagers came out of their houses and yards, and when they saw Leo and the others getting out of the cars, their faces broke into wide, joyful smiles. Hey, it's really them. The university kids are back. A crowd of villagers enthusiastically gathered around them, chattering and greeting them warmly. Though months had passed, there was no awkwardness, only a greater sense of closeness. It wasn't just because of the villagers' simple and honest nature. It was because they had all survived a natural disaster together. They had forged a deep bond through shared hardship, and this reunion was a happy one. The village chief boomed orders, assigning houses and deftly getting everyone settled in with various families. He pulled Leo and Claire back to his own house. Come on, come on. You two are staying with me again. The house is brand new, shiny as a new pin. The guest bed is new too, real soft, like lying on a cloud. My old back can't handle it. I'm used to a hardboard, but you two are young. It'll be great for you. Tonight you can test the springs. The missus and I, we sleep like logs, won't hear a thing. The chief was in his element, his words flowing freely, getting more and more inappropriate. Leo and Claire didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fortunately, the chief's wife came out and smacked her husband on the back of the head. These are students, they're shy. You think everyone's like you? Go on, get them some new blankets. The village chief, usually so imposing, deflated under his wife's command and scurried into the house with a sheepish grin. Leo and Claire couldn't help but chuckle. So the great village chief was henpecked. After settling in, the group set out for the Hope School. The new school was still close to the village, only about a 10-minute walk. The path had been painstakingly paved with stone slabs, so the children no longer risked falling. As they walked, Leo found himself looking at the path, remembering that night before the flood, when he had raced his bicycle through the dark, stormy night to warn the village. Claire noticed his gaze and gently took his hand. Leo looked over at her, met her soft eyes, and smiled, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Nothing more needed to be said. The memory of the danger was still vivid, but what mattered was that the person who should be there had been by his side the whole time. That was enough. They had sent a message to son E before leaving the village. When they arrived at the Hope School, a huge crowd of children was already gathered at the gate, eagerly waiting. When they saw Leo and the others appear on the path, the children erupted in cheers. They're here. They're really here. Teacher's son wasn't lying. They swarmed out of the gate and surrounded their long-missed big brothers and sisters. One little glutton with a watering mouth sidled up to Leon. Brother, do you have any more of those snacks from last time? That cake thing. Leon, who had come prepared, grinned and pulled out handful after handful of date cakes. Date cakes. Come and get him. There's plenty for everyone. Some of the boys found Marco, clamoring to play garden grab on his phone. The little girls, with stars in their eyes, gathered around Molly. Sister, we want to hear more stories about the alpha female CEO and the pretty boy campus prince. A group of little kids stood in a neat line, shouted a command, and then performed a series of intricate hand signs in unison, ending with a loud, respectful cry. Greetings, teacher. Dylan was practically floating. It felt surprisingly good. Out in the world, his silence and hand gestures made him seem like a mute. But here in the mountains, he was the glorious Hokage, returning to his loyal village. Suddenly, he never wanted to leave. Claire and Anna went to play games with the younger children. It was Anna's first time at Spirit Springs Mountain, but she was a natural with kids and was soon laughing and playing with them. Nearby, Leo leaned against the new basketball hoop. Son, he walked over with 2 bottles of water and handed one to him. Leo took it without ceremony, twisted it open, and took a drink. He looked at Son E and asked with a smile, "How's the school doing?" Son E took a sip of water and laughed heartily. "Everything's great. With help from everyone in the village and the town and county officials, we're doing well. We're even getting a few new teachers soon. The school has a bright future." Leo looked at him and smiled. "With everything looking up, have you thought about your own future? I heard the chief say the city wanted to name you Teacher of the Year and transfer you to the top elementary school. That's a huge opportunity." But son, he just waved his hand. "That's not for me. I'm happy here in the mountains. If I left, I'd worry about these kids." Leo thought for a moment and offered some friendly advice. "It doesn't have to be you who stays. Someone else could come." Son E smiled. "That's true. But if someone has to be here, why can't it be me?" Just then, a burst of joyful noise came from the playground. They both looked over. Anna, full of energy, had organized a game of duck, duck, goose. She was the fox, and Claire was the mother hen, protectively shielding the children behind her. Anna lunged playfully, and the kids shrieked with excitement, darting back and forth behind Claire. The sunlight poured down, illuminating the scene on the Hope School's playground. It was a picture of harmony and warmth. Son E watched, a look of deep contentment on his face. To each their own. I'm not a very ambitious person. Just seeing these kids smile every day is enough to make me happy. If I can keep doing this, it's worth it. Leo watched the scene too. His gaze swept over the children's flushed faces, past Anna, and finally rested on his girlfriend's bright, beautiful smile. He felt a stir in his heart, and then a sense of understanding. He smiled too, and raised his water bottle, clinking it against the simple village teachers. Reasonable. They played with the children at the Hope School all afternoon, and the university students were exhausted. The kids, however, were still full of energy. Chun'er was suddenly had an idea and raised his hand. Big brothers and sisters, want to go soak in the hot springs? The flood blasted open a few new ones. That one sentence sent a jolt through the male students. Their tired bodies were instantly re-energized. Then Chun'er turned to the girls. Sisters, you can soak in them too. The aunties in the village say the new hot springs make your skin really smooth. Instantly, the girls were tempted. Really? Then let's go, let's try them. Marco was ecstatic, enthusiastically slapping Chun'er on the shoulder. Good kid, you got a bright future. Your big brother will remember this. You just say the word, and we'll make you the new principal of the Hope School. When they reached the hot springs, they found a beautiful spot with steam rising from the water, which was dotted with fallen leaves and flower petals. Anna, Quinn, Lily, and Molly's eyes lit up with excitement. They immediately declared, "This one is for the girls." They turned to the guys from room 520 and waved them away like flies. You guys go to the one next door. The men looked like they had been doused with cold water. What? Isn't this one co-ed? The girls shot them a sideways glance. Co-ed? In your dreams. There are kids here. What would it look like, soaking with you smelly boys? But Chun'er was thrilled. He secretly pulled Marco and the others aside and whispered, "It's okay, brothers. This spring is small. The one next to it is way bigger. We're getting the better deal. They're losing out." Marco looked at Chun'er and the other excited little boys with an expression of profound sadness. "You're too young. You don't understand what getting the better deal really means." Leo, standing nearby, felt a pang of disappointment. So much for a romantic couple's hot spring. This trip wasn't it either. He was about to follow the other guys when Claire strolled past him and murmured casually in his ear, 5-minute walk south. Behind the bamboo grove, there's a small, private spring. She then added nonchalantly, "The village chief told me. Don't tell anyone else." Leo froze. A second later, he was practically boiling with excitement. He wanted to grab his girlfriend and give her a huge kiss. Look at this. This was the quality of a Wallace family wife. Always looking out for her own. Claire had already walked away. She glanced back at Leo and raised an eyebrow. Overjoyed, Leo made a heart shape with his hands. "MS. Bertha Sue. I love you." Claire smiled and pretended to catch it in the air. Then, making sure no one was looking, she blew him a daring kiss. Her eyes were mischievous and alluring. "See you in a bit." Leo was grinning so hard it hurt. Marco walked by, looking at him suspiciously. "Leo, what are you doing?" Leo instantly wiped the expression off his face. "Nothing. Just thinking of something happy." It wasn't that he was being a bad friend, but this was one treat he was keeping all to himself. The boys' hot spring experience was nothing to write home about. The little kids from Hope School were having a blast, stripping down and cannonballing into the water like a bunch of dumplings, competing to see who could make the biggest splash. Leon and Marco just sighed, their thoughts drifting to the girls' spring next door. As for Dylan, he had no time for sighing. He was surrounded by a group of eager students, begging their teacher to show them the hand signs for a water-style jutsu. He was in his element. While everyone was distracted, a certain handsome young man stealthily slipped to the edge of the spring and climbed out. He glanced back at the others, then grabbed his clothes and disappeared into the trees. Following his girlfriend's directions, he passed through the bamboo grove and saw a thicket of shrubs. He walked toward it with anticipation. The view opened up before him. A small hot spring, nestled among the bamboo, was hidden and serene, with steam rising from its surface. Leo tossed his clothes onto a nearby rock and jumped in. The water splashed up around him. It was hot, almost scalding, and it seemed to seep into every pore, but it was a stimulating, blissful feeling that made him want to let out a sigh of contentment. Just then, he heard footsteps, the soft crunch of leaves and twigs. He turned and saw Claire parting the branches and walking toward him. She was barefoot, wearing a single long, thin coat. The coat covered most of her body, but her slender, fair calves were visible beneath the hem. She looked at Leo in the water in feigned surprise. "Oh, someone's already here." Leo gave her a warm welcome. "Don't worry, it's just me. Care to join, beautiful?" The girl frowned slightly. "I don't know you. What if you're a bad guy?" Leo put on a wicked expression and rubbed his hands together, slowly moving toward her. "Then I guess it's your unlucky day." Claire tilted her head, pretending to think it over. then suddenly broke into a dazzling smile. All right, with that, she shrugged off her coat. Her slender, graceful figure, like polished jade, hit the sole audience member's eyes with a breathtaking impact. Amidst the swirling steam, she looked like a celestial fairy, not of this world. Leo was utterly captivated. Seeing her boyfriend's dazed expression, Claire's lips curled into a smirk. Like what you see? He subconsciously nodded. I do. You're a goddess. Her smile widened. She elegantly extended a delicate foot toward her boyfriend, her voice light and teasing. Cool, me. The goddess permits you to kiss her right foot. Looking completely enchanted, he moved forward as if to obey. But in the next second, his expression changed. Kiss my ass. Get in here, you. He suddenly reached out, grabbed her arm, and pulled her from the bank. With a startled cry from the girl, the water erupted in a splash. After their playful splashing, the private little hot spring in the woods settled into a quiet serenity. In the pool, the couple leaned against the edge, relaxed and comfortable, not speaking. They simply soaked in the warmth, enjoying the miracle of nature. Leo had one arm around his girlfriend, his head tilted back to look at the sky. The sunset was a brilliant, magnificent spectacle, with clouds stretching and rolling across the canvas. The sight brought a sense of peace and calm. As his mind quieted, his thoughts began to drift. The last time they were here, it was early spring. Now, it was the start of summer. Then, it had been a dark and stormy night, the flash flood like the sky falling. Now, the sky was filled with a beautiful sunset, the clouds serene. Barely 3 months had passed, sharing this hot spring with the girl in his arms, fulfilling the wish left unfulfilled last time. It felt like a lifetime away. His thoughts wandered. The girl in his arms stirred slightly. Claire turned her head to look at his profile. What are you thinking about? Leo came back to the present and smiled down at her. Nothing. I was just thinking how amazing this is. Last time we were here, it was all chaos and danger with the flood. I never would have imagined we'd be here today, just relaxing in a hot spring like this. His casual words seemed to stir something in her as well. Claire nodded, the memory of that stormy night still bringing a faint flicker of fear to her eyes. Yeah, back then, it was so dangerous. Seeing the lingering fear in her eyes, Leo smiled and gently stroked her head, tucking a wet strand of hair behind her ear. You're scared now? If you knew you'd be scared, you shouldn't have been so reckless. But Claire frowned and looked at him, her expression serious as she corrected him. I wasn't scared of the danger. I was scared of losing you. Leo paused, his gaze softening. I know, but if there's ever a next time, please don't be so reckless. It would break my heart. As he spoke, his eyes unconsciously fell to her chest. This time, there was no flirtation in his gaze, only a quiet focus on the faint scar just above her heart. It was from that night, when a flying rock had shattered the Maybach's window and struck her. The scar was very light now, almost invisible in the misty steam, but the memory of that moment was still terrifying. But hearing his words, Claire shook her head stubbornly. If there's a next time, I'll do it again. She looked up, meeting his eyes, her voice firm. 10 times, 100 times. It won't change. Feeling the resolve in her words, Leo was moved, but he tried to make a joke. If it really happened 10 or 100 more times, our luck might run out. Fate can't always be on our side. Claire raised an eyebrow. Who needs fate on our side? She lifted her hands and cupped his face, her gaze intense, her tone like a declaration. You are mine. Not even God himself can take you away. Then, she leaned forward and kissed him, a forceful kiss, as if she were declaring her sovereignty to the heavens. When they broke apart, Claire looked up at him and challenged. Any objections? Leo looked back at her and suddenly smiled. No objections. Perfectly reasonable. The next second, he bent his head and kissed her again. In the swirling steam, their forms blurred, melting into one. Passionate, intense, and tender. The trees swayed, and the water murmured, masking the sound of their sharp, ragged breaths. When he lowered his head and gently kissed the faint scar on her chest, she wrapped her arms tightly around his head, pulling him closer. She tilted her head back, her expression hazy, and whispered, Leo, in this life, you are my everything. At the entrance to the mountain path, the guys from room 520 and a group of children were waiting. They looked up and saw the lethal and savage couple emerging from the other side of the woods, looking refreshed and content. Marco was confused. Hey, how'd you two come from over there? Where were you? Leo answered without batting an eye. Nowhere, just walking around, enjoying the scenery. Question marks popped up over the heads of the room 520 trio. Scenery. Claire was just as nonchalant. That's right. Is it not reasonable for a couple to take a walk in the mountains and look at the scenery? Without waiting for a response from the skeptical trio, she turned to her boyfriend. You guys go on ahead. I'll go get Anna and the others. The girl's hot spring wasn't far from the path. After separating from her boyfriend, Claire walked briskly along the trail. The memory of what had just happened in their private little spring brought a smile to her lips. Lost in her thoughts, she inadvertently stepped on something. She looked down. Peeking out from a tangle of weeds and branches was the corner of a rotten wooden plaque. Or rather, half a plaque. She could faintly make out the words of awakening, but they were hard to decipher. Claire paused. She looked around and saw broken tiles and bricks scattered among the dead leaves. Not far away, by a bush, the statues of the Taoist deities were leaning askew, though they still stood. The incense burner that had been before them was now toppled over on its side. It seemed the old, dilapidated sanctuary hadn't survived the flood. Not only had the sign fallen, but the statues and burner had been washed down here. Claire looked at the statues, then at the incense burner. After a moment's thought, she walked over, lifted the heavy burner, and placed it upright in front of the statues. She stood up, dusted off her hands, and looked at the statues, her expression calm and placid. I kicked it over last time. I said it right this time. We're even. With that, she turned to leave without a second glance. But after a few steps, she seemed to remember something and turned back. By the way, she said, I had a chat with the Bodhisattva from the chapel on Serenity Peak. You'd better watch yourselves. If you cause any more trouble, I'll have her come and beat you up. Having delivered her casual threat, the girl walked away with a light step, leaving the three statues to stare silently into the woods, their expressions unreadable.